Quiet on the set. Shh. Hello.
Hi,
Hey,
buddy.
Bill out there.
Yo.
Looks like we're on Facebook and Google, YouTube, that is.
Excellent.
Yay. How is everybody out there? Live from Nick's home studio.
There you go. No,
I never knew I had one till this moment.
Yes, you do. This is what this is.
I do now.
What would you call it?
I don't know.
His study.
Yeah.
That's what they call it over there, right? A study.
Yeah, it's not a traditional study. It's not like wood paneled with books everywhere and a big old leather chair and old tatty desk. No. But it is sort of like that.
With a pipe with fresh tobacco to smoke up the room.
Yeah. And yep. And some other herbs to put in it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to find that sound clip. Of course, I can never do that when I want to find something. Probably not there. I was going to play the rich mahogany or the shoot.
The shoot mahogany.
Yeah. What's it called? That show, Anchorman. You probably you haven't seen Anchorman, have you, Dana?
No, I actually saw Ron Burgundy.
Yeah,
I saw it, but I don't remember it.
Here it goes. Here it is. Why aren't you playing? Son of a gun! Why is it doing that?
Son of a beach ball.
You know who I am? I don't know how to put this, but
yeah,
I'm kind of a big deal. People know me.
Why is the volume so
I'm very
low?
important. I have many leather-bound books.
Here we go.
And my apartment smells of rich mahogany.
That's what I expected for a study. Rich mahogany.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, that was a fail.
It wasn't that good.
No.
Yeah, that was bump.
Yeah, well, that's the way it goes sometimes. The volume was so bad. Let me make sure the other volumes are better.
Oh,
that
yeah.
sounds better.
I'm awake now.
Potable.
Or since we're in England.
Potable.
Very nice. I like a bit of.
Let me make sure I have this
Potable.
all queued up for the plain tales. Okay. Or better yet. All right.
10 Van Ram commented, I love an early start. Still dark and waiting for sunrise over an hour in San Francisco.
In over an hour. What? What time is it over there? Oh, it's probably 6 o'clock.
6:04. Ray Davis. I can answer for myself. I'm doing just Ducky. Jeff and Nick, he wants to know how you guys are.
We are doing duckier.
Yeah, the weather's pretty CRAT.
It's perfect for a duck, actually.
It is.
Well, it's typical England weather in January, sir.
It's not even typical. It's very stormy. It's Storm Brendan.
Something like that, yeah.
Brendan, yes.
Yeah.
It's a named storm. It's
Well, at least it's not Stormy Daniels.
yes, true. Okay. Let's see here. Make sure we have excuse me, everything set up. Wish I had a cough button.
Yeah, there's something we're missing, isn't it?
Let's see.
Hey, Jeff, you bringing any of that chocolate home with you, by the way? Nick knows the chocolate I'm talking about.
What chocolate?
I don't know.
I don't have any chocolate.
Green and blacks.
The one that has with the toffee or butterscotch in it or something like that.
He could, but we didn't go to when we went to the supermarket yesterday.
Oh well, no big deal. I don't need it anyways.
Okay.
Jilly might have a bar.
Did you take the jerky over to Nick? Liz is asking. No, I didn't, because I wasn't sure that was something that I could bring in to the country through.
Yeah, I might have had to smuggle it.
Yeah.
We don't want Jeff in jail.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah. You want to be rid of him, don't you?
And honestly, it means that there's more for me. Being selfish.
Well, no, because I've already been over to see Linda. I knocked on the door and said, "There's this bag of jerky. I'm looking
If
for
you
it. I
guys-
know
oh
where
no,
it is."
that bag of jerky is gone. He's over in England.
Very good.
Ba-doom, bam.
Bada bing, bada boom.
There we go.
Brilliant.
Okay. So we do have Radio Roger intro, and we have Dana and the two of us here. And by the way, if you're watching, which obviously you are, Steph's not going to be able to join us today. Sorry. She's, I don't know. Does she?
She's busy with NASA.
Yes.
We can't talk about it.
All we can say is female astronaut, and that's all we're going to say. It may or may not have anything to do with reality, but I just said it.
That's what you call an unmanned space mission.
Yes. Okay. Shall we start the show, you think?
No.
Okay.
Let's just sit here and blather for the next
All right.
3 hours.
Do we want to just clap and then, or do you want to use your clapboard? It'd be too hard to get over there and get it. So,
Yeah, I haven't
just
set up
clap.
a recorder anyway.
oh yeah. Ooh, good thing you said recorder.
Good, yeah, good thing you did say recorder there, Nick. Although I think we've got good.
Right. Let me make sure that the card's actually in here.
Recording. We are recording live.
Got a little door in the back. It's so cute.
Doesn't it come up with an error if you try and record with no card?
If you happen to be looking at that tiny little screen at the time, I think it probably does.
That's-
I think that one on the left is showing how many hours are left on the primary SD card and the second SD card right there. But I don't know. I've done this before, so I want to make sure.
Yeah, like 23 hours might not be enough
Okay.
for this show.
I feel the card. I feel better. Okay. There we go. So we sound relatively even on our levels to the chat room, on the video, everybody. Dana?
Yeah, you sound good to me.
Okay. Very good.
I didn't
All right.
respond because you said chat room.
Well, yeah. Okay. Good point. All right. Let's go APG 408 in 3, 2, 1.
We couldn't
Wait a
even get it right.
Wait. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, Rusty. You wanna play.
Rusty goes, what's going on here? What's all this clapping going on over here? I don't know if you can see Rusty. Oh, yeah, you can see Rusty. Hey, Rusty, say hi to everybody. There you go. Hi. Hi. Really? She's going to knock your iPad over? Oh, there you go.
There's Rusty.
Oh, she's such a good
What
girl.
Good.
Pretty girl.
Pretty girl.
Yeah.
Look, you're on the camera. Can you see yourself? No, she says, what on earth's going on?
Okay. Well, I think recorder's going over here. Dana's recorder is going, and I think it's time now to start the show. So,
Okay.
Liz, give me a thumbs up. All right. Thumbs up. Here we go.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy episode 408.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy show, the view from our side of the cockpit door, with your host, Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from the English country estate of Captain Nick Anderson in Hampshire. Today's show is recorded on the 14th of January, 2020.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Put your light and it's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, a passenger describes flying through a fire-generated cloud over Australia. and Iran admits they're shooting down a Ukrainian airliner. More news, your feedback, and in today's Plane Tales, the A300. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in the upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. I'm Radio Roger, and Flight 408 is ready for pushback.
Thanks, Radio Roger. He is an Emmy Award-winning TV and radio reporter, currently at the #1 all-news station in the nation. 10 wins. Edit and post. Okay, welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. We've been podcasting aviation for more than 10 years, covering the latest aviation news and answering your feedback. I'm Captain Jeff, a former U.S. Air Force pilot, currently a captain for a major legacy airline based in Atlanta, Georgia, which we like to call Acme Airlines. And joining me today from his studio in the English countryside, professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, former captain for an international airline based in London. It's Captain Nick.
Well, hi there, Jeff, and welcome back to the mother country.
Yes, it's wonderful.
We laid on this weather especially for you. It's currently blowing an absolute gale out there, and the rain's coming down. So this is perfect English weather.
Just as I'd pictured it. And also joining us from the Northwest Atlanta suburbs, barbecue master, motorcycle rider, pleasure boat skipper, underwater photographer, and a man with a very sore Achilles tendon. He's a captain for a major U.S. legacy carrier, also Captain Dana.
Hi, guys. I miss you so much. I feel so lonely here without you. But yes, you're correct. A little bit of a sore Achilles here still today.
Well, we're sorry to hear that, Dana. And we'll hear more about that and the lovely weather here and more when we get to the getting to know you segment of the show. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and start off with this week's news.
Stand by for news.
Passengers describe flying through a fire-generated cloud on Melbourne to Canberra flight. And let's see, this is from www.abc.net.au. And it starts off by saying, the Qantas flight's route took it over the bushfires ravaging Victoria and New South Wales, and the plane unexpectedly entered a weather system being generated by one of the fires. It just got grayer and grayer, passenger Matt McIntyre said of the approach to the pyrocumulus cloud. Never heard of that before. That's cool. All of a sudden, everything just went pitch black, and that's when the plane sort of dropped. There was one guy sort of swearing. I heard people down the front vomiting. Another passenger said it was the scariest flight she had ever taken. There's some photos here in the article that are actually pretty scary looking. It was daytime, but not nighttime. They're flying around some clouds that appear to be cumulus clouds, pretty nasty looking ones in my mind. And then all of a sudden there's a photo of basically just complete blackness, darkness outside. Another quote from a passenger, it was orange outside of the window, and then suddenly it was black, and then the turbulence hit. I was jumping off my seat.
Well, that was a silly thing to do. She should have stayed sitting in it.
I know. She should have had her seatbelt on and not been jumping off her seat.
Yeah.
I do realize that down there they're like kangaroos, but keep your seatbelts on.
That's right. Pyrocumulus clouds emerge when hot air from fires rise into the sky and cool, causing condensation and the formation of clouds. Qantas fleet captain, safety captain Debbie Slade said pilots reacted quickly to hitting the unexpected turbulence. The pilots ascended to a higher altitude before taking a different approach into Canberra. Thank you. When the aircraft had a normal landing, she said. And Mr. McIntyre, one of the passengers, said the plane's passage through the cloud felt as though it went on for minutes, but it was likely shorter than that. Because it was so dark outside, it was just hard to get a gauge on exactly what was happening. It wasn't until we got back on track that we got a voiceover from the captain. They said it just did not come up on the radar at all. Well, would it come up on a radar? Because it's really not a lot of moisture.
No, I don't think
high
so. The radar relies on the droplet size. In fact, the radar wavelengths are calibrated to bounce off water droplets in clouds. And if the cloud is of this nature, there's a good chance that it won't have enough water content to show up, in which case you've just got to use Mark 1 eyeballs. And since it was a day flight, I would have been looking at it. It looks pretty active, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really is growing, and there's true cumulus form in the way that it bubbles and emerges from new growths of cloud created by the uplift. So it looks very active, and I wouldn't have liked to go in that, really.
It looked very, yeah. Go ahead, Dana.
It looks like none other, like any other cloud I've ever seen. At least the one picture they put out here. It really looks almost like real cottony, but really bunched up cotton.
Yeah.
And it's just I don't see that I would go through that either.
No,
in defense of the crew, they may not have realized what was causing the cloud, although they probably had an idea, but now everyone knows a lot more about it. And you tend to gauge the intensity of the weather inside the cloud by the radar, by the different colors the radar shows. So you go, well, I can probably go through this cloud, but I won't go through that cloud or that portion of it. And if there was nothing on the radar at all to give them an indication, then, they might be going, well, it looks pretty benign.
True. But now they've learned a lesson, and all the rest of us have as well.
Yeah. I hope the whole aviation community, particularly those who operate regularly in areas where you get forest fires, will look at this and go, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to put that away in my database, and one of these days I might need to pull it out and use it again. That's what she said.
I'm sorry.
That's what she said.
Okay. Wasn't quick enough. Sorry.
Shall I take over for HR considering she's not here? Behave yourself, boys.
We'll do our best.
Sorry. All right. Item B. Ray Davis sent us this via Facebook. 2 MD-87 firefighting air tankers will deploy to Australia. So talking about the bushfires in Australia. This will bring Australia's fleet of large air tankers up to 11 for the 2019-2020 bushfire season. The companies supplying the 4 additional large air tankers that will be mobilizing to help the firefighters in Australia have been identified. On January 4, we wrote about the 2 DC-10s that 10-tanker air carrier will be sending down. Today, we learned that 2 McDonnell Douglas MD-87s will also be deploying 2 of their air tankers. Matt Isley of Ericsson Aero Tanker said tankers 102 and 103 will be under contract with the Australian federal government. T-102 will be leaving January 13, and T-103 is scheduled for January 16. One of the DC-10s, T-912, is expected to arrive in Australia on January 15, to be followed by tanker 914 around January 25, after their heavy maintenance is wrapped up. They will join another DC-10, tanker 911, that arrived in November, or 911, your choice. Neither is good. All right.
You missed the most important thing that he said in this.
What did he say?
Retirement job for Captain Jeff.
Oh, well, that's what Liz said.
Oh, is that what Liz? Okay.
Yeah, when you see something highlighted like that in all caps, that's our producer.
Well, it's still a very good point.
Yeah, that's possible. Who knows? I don't know how they pay. Probably not as good as this podcast pays.
We're doing well, aren't we, Jeff? Got another pay rise. That's really good.
All right. So if you want to learn more about the air tankers in Australia, look in the show notes. Or I guess we should come up with something like in the show notes. ITSN.
Yeah, very good. We should have a little soundbite for that.
Yes. Iran plane crash, item C. This is one that has just happened recently, and everybody in the world knows about this, I would suppose, unless you're living under a rock. Not Iraq, but a rock. Bam! Wow.
Oh, that's dreadful.
Wow.
Okay. Iran says it unintentionally shot down Ukrainian airliner. The Islamic Republic of Iran deeply regrets this disastrous mistake, President Hassan Rouhani said, as Iran reversed its claims that mechanical failure was to blame. This is from the New York Times. Iran's military announced early Saturday that it had accidentally shot down a Ukrainian passenger jet, blaming human error because of what it called the plane's sharp, unexpected turn toward a sensitive military base. After days of tension since the jet crashed near Tehran on Wednesday, the same day that Iranian missiles struck American bases in Iraq, the admission was a stunning reversal. Iran initially maintained that mechanical issues had brought the Boeing airliner down, killing all 176 people aboard. The Islamic Republic of Iran deeply regrets this disastrous mistake. Of course, we've already quoted that, and they had to say it again. I don't know why, but they had to say it again. They offered condolences to the victims' families and said investigations were underway. The military said the person responsible would face legal consequences. So, yeah, at first it was kind of suspicious because at first really quickly they said, oh, they had an engine problem. Well, okay, you have an engine problem. That doesn't mean the airplane crashes.
Or wreckage strewn all over the place on fire.
Right. And I don't know if you saw the video that somebody took, and this is early in the morning, so it's still dark, and they're just fire just streaming from this airplane long before it hit the ground. And yeah, I don't know anything that really causes something like that except a missile.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, I think they had their suspicions, but they wanted to get it out there. And I'm actually a little surprised that they went back and took responsibility despite all the evidence, because they could have just tried to bluff it out. But I guess we have to credit them with putting their hands up once they realized their original guess was really impossible to justify.
I don't know if they would have been able to buff that out. That was just too much damage.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, bluff it out. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
a different. Yeah. Okay.
And of course, it's gone on because now there are demonstrations, anti-government demonstrations because of this mistake, and they even arrested the British ambassador to Iran.
Is he still under arrest?
No, I think he was released quite quickly after, but we're still complaining about it.
Yeah, he was attending some the mourners of the 16, I believe, students from the university in Tehran that were on the airplane that were killed, and he was just attending as a show of support.
That's right, because we lost three British citizens died in the crash, and it was a memorial of sorts to them. Mm-hmm. But of course, it turned into something that was more of a demonstration, so he left. But the government took the unusual choice to arrest him. But that's by the by. I don't know if they're trying to deflect blame, but certainly this is another dreadful occurrence. We've had a few of these in history, and certainly in these troubled areas. I think it's quite right that we're making big efforts to divert around that area now to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again.
Yes. Well said. All right. Item D. Boeing employees mocked FAA and the clowns who designed 737 MAX. That's not coming from me. That's coming from this article. New York Times again. So let's see. The company, Boeing, expressed regret at the embarrassing communications it sent to investigators on Thursday, which included a comment that, quote, "This airplane is designed by clowns who are in turn supervised by monkeys."
Gosh.
Nobody has seen this employee since this was released. Boeing employees mocked federal rules, talked about deceiving regulators, and joked about potential flaws in the 737 MAX as it was being developed, according to over 100 pages of internal messages delivered Thursday to congressional investigators. Quote, I still haven't been forgiven by God for the covering up I did last year, one of the employees said in messages from 2018, apparently in reference to interactions with the FAA. The most damaging messages included conversations among Boeing pilots and other employees about software issues and other problems with flight simulators for the MAX, a plane later involved in 2 accidents in late 2018 and early 2019 that killed 346 people and threw the company into chaos. The employees appear to discuss instances in which the company concealed such problems from the FAA during the regulator certification of the simulators, which were used in the development of the MAX, as well as in training for pilots who had not previously flown a 737. One of them asked, would you put your family on a MAX simulator-trained aircraft? I wouldn't, one employee said to a colleague in another exchange from 2018. No, the colleague responded. Wow, this is really damning stuff. And of course, we already quoted the one, the airplane is designed by clowns who are in turn supervised by monkeys, an employee wrote in an exchange from 2017. So everything is in turmoil over at the Boeing company, and we know that they released the CEO, and sadly, he only got, what, $70-80 million worth of
poor chap.
pay and
I feel sorry
stuff.
for him.
He might be in the food line collecting food stamps here soon, I think.
Poor guy.
Poor guy, suffering terribly.
Yeah.
So not only for me is this a bit of an indictment of the way the aircraft was being developed, but it's going to make it so much harder for the FAA to pass the aircraft and to speedily bring it back online. Because if I was working for the FAA and I knew that the company and their employees had been saying this about me and my organization, I would not be in a hurry to expedite things.
No, neither would I. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be recertified anytime soon. What a mess. What a mess. All right. Item E. Amazing pictures after a hard landing. This is from the Aviation Herald, and it was sent in by Michael Deprez. So here we go. Nordwind A321 at Antalya.
I don't know. I've never tried to say that before.
Okay. On January 10, 2020, hard landing. Nordwind Airlines Airbus A321-200, registration Victor Quebec, Bravo Romeo Sierra, performing positioning flight 1801 from Moscow, Sheremetyevo to somewhere in Turkey, was on approach to that runway 36 center at about 7:40 local time in the morning. Touchdown hard on the runway, about plus 2.65 G above limits. Or is that 265 G above limits or 265 G, which is above limits? I don't know.
Either way, that's pretty hard.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, not designed for that, I don't believe. The crew initiated a go-around. The crew observed attitude and navigation indication problems, and smoke developed in the cockpit. The crew donned their oxygen masks, declared Mayday, and performed a low approach to runway 36 center to have the underside of the aircraft, including landing gear, suspected for any structural issues. While climbing out after the low approach, both main hydraulic systems failed. The crew declared Mayday a second time and performed a visual approach and landing on runway 36 center. The aircraft was unable to vacate the runway and stopped. The aircraft was shut down. A post-flight inspection showed both nose gear tires deflated. The nose gear strut had been pushed through the cabin floor. The fuselage, all in the area of the nose gear, showed significant creases. So for those who don't know, most of the brains and stuff that controls all our avionics and everything else is usually right underneath that cockpit area. So the avionics electrical bay is usually right beneath the floor of the cockpit, or maybe even behind it and below if you're a larger airplane. But the area where the nose gear is situated, usually that's right in the area where a lot of this electronics stuff is. And so if the nose gear strut goes through it, I can understand why they may have had some smoke in the cockpit.
Absolutely. They really did make a problem for themselves. I mean, the damage by the nose wheel is bad enough, but then having to fly the aircraft around again with electrical smoke, which indicates to me that you've got a little fire going on down there. And having lost a couple of hydraulic systems. So yeah, it's pretty dire. I'm, a little surprised that they managed to get around safely. I'm very glad they didn't try and raise the gear after it.
Looks like the weather was pretty nice, though. At least they had that going for them. Cav okay.
Yep.
And it says the aircraft suffered a hard landing. No kidding. There were no injuries in the aircraft. Talking about the understatement of the year. The aircraft sustained damage, however. Yeah. You drive the nose gear through the floor of the airplane and it sustained damage. How about major damage or catastrophic damage or something other than just sustained damage? However.
Yeah, well, is this a Russian airline, Nordwind? Because that was a quote from Russia's embassy in Turkey. So maybe they were trying to spin it in a positive light. But I did notice at the very beginning it says it was a positioning flight, so it may have been just the pilot and cabin crew aboard and no passengers. I don't know.
Nordwind Airlines is a Russian leisure airline.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Dana.
Headquartered in Moscow.
There you go. And of course, the Russian embassy statement clearly says that there were no passengers on board. So I stated the obvious, obviously. Anything else to add to that?
No, I think a little bit of remedial training is required.
Yes. Okay. F. Yes, sir.
I was going to say, it looks like the winds were a bit gusty when they landed, though.
Were they?
02016 gusting 26.
Yeah.
Cavu okay, but I mean, it's not significant, obviously, for a professional airline pilot, but still a little bit windy.
Yeah, true. Okay, continuing on with Item F. I'm in a helicopter here that costs 550 pounds an hour, okay? Okay, well.
We'll go buy a cheaper one then.
Yeah, no kidding. A high-flying manager-director, oh, I get it, has been fined 1,600 pounds after he subjected a female air traffic controller to a vitriolic mid-air rant whilst attempting to land his private helicopter on an airfield. This from the Manchester Evening News.co.uk. Wealthy businessman Joel Tobias, 52, had been flying his wife and family to the Lancashire. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Lancashire
seaside, but fell foul of Andrea Tolley when he radioed in demanding he be able to land at Blackpool Airport. Miss Tolley had not been aware of the incoming flight yet when she tried to ask Tobias to wait. Okay, had not been aware of incoming flight when she tried to ask him to wait. He began berating her over the airwaves, claiming she had failed to return earlier messages. During an angry exchange on frequency 119.95, Tobias, who also runs an Aston Martin car and a motorbike, told Miss Tolley he wanted her name and raged, "I'll be putting a complaint in. Your job is actually to take calls from aircraft and not to have two-way chats with other aircraft asking how their day is going and how fun it is. I'm in a helicopter here that costs 550 pounds an hour, okay? And I've waited 10 minutes for you to answer the call. It's absolutely appalling." He gave, let's see, when another pilot on the same frequency thanked Miss Tolley for her help landing his aircraft, Tobias said sarcastically to him, "If that's the service you expect from an airport like Blackpool, then I feel sorry for you." Tobias from Whitfield, or is it Whitefield?
Whitfield.
Okay. Who runs a cybersecurity firm, did not take the matter further when he landed. He was later reported to the Civil Aviation Authority over his conduct by another pilot. In a statement, Miss Tolley said a colleague had to relieve her of duty following the row. She was so upset and barely slept that evening. She added, "I was a bit shaken up as I've never experienced anything like this or had been spoken to like this in my entire career. A fellow pilot who listened to Tobias's ranting while he too was waiting to land said, quote, he was clearly annoyed and very agitated, and it was upsetting to witness. Nobody should get abused like that when they're trying to work in a busy environment.
Elitist.
Yeah.
He's just an elitist. He thinks he's better than everybody else. And if you can afford $550, £550 an hour, you shouldn't be worrying about £550 an hour.
Exactly. Well, it was taken to a Manchester magistrate's court. He was brought down to earth with a bump after he pleaded guilty by letter to an offense under the Air Navigation Order 2016 of flying within an aerodrome traffic zone without having obtained information to enable a safe flight. He was also ordered to pay £870, which is more than the cost per hour of the helicopter he was in costs and surcharges. The maximum sentence is a £2,500 fine. Yeah, exactly, Dana. Just, I'm above everybody else. You should be paying attention to me because
don't you know who I am?
Right. Yeah. Excuse me. This gentleman here doesn't know who he is. Can anybody recognize him?
And by the way, I think it actually might be Whitefield because it has an E in the middle.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah. Initially, I said Whitfield, and then I saw the E.
I wasn't following, but
okay. Well, it's one of those.
Yeah,
for sure.
He looks pretty grumpy in that picture. I wonder if that's his usual relaxed look. He looks like Grumpy Cat.
He looks like he's stuck up.
This looks like the kind of guy that Dana likes to hang out with.
Yeah, not a chance in this world.
All right. Item G. An incident involving a Delta Airlines Boeing 777. A Delta Airlines Boeing 777 diverted to Boston on January 9th after in-flight engine vibrations. The aircraft was operating a special flight from Las Vegas to Paris just prior to starting the transatlantic portion of the flight. Engine vibrations forced the crew to divert to Boston Logan International Airport. Actually, I don't know why they say an engine. Let's read the report from Aviation Herald. I think we're going to get a little bit better information here. It was about they were at flight level 370, about 100 nautical miles southwest of Wabash, Canada, when loud noise and vibrations occurred. The crew set course to divert to New York JFK at first, later to Boston, Mass. Descended the Newfoundland. Thank you, Liz. NL for Newfoundland or Newfoundland or Newfoundland. One of those. They initially set course for Kennedy, but then they decided to go to Boston, a little bit closer. Descended the aircraft to flight level 350 and 300 and landed safely on Boston's runway 33 left about 90 minutes later with emergency services on standby. After landing, the crew advised they did have an aft cargo runaway with the temperature dropping in the back. The aircraft taxied to the apron with emergency services and trail. A replacement Boeing 777-200 registration 860DA reached Paris with a delay of 7 hours. The FAA reported the aircraft diverted after the crew reported vibrations and declared an emergency. The airline reported a mechanical issue prompted the diversion. Passengers reported there was a sudden piercing sound followed by loud noise and vibrations, resulting in an emergency landing in Boston. The crew moved a number of passengers out of their seats. After landing, they were told it may have been a burst air conditioning pipe, not yet really clear. The occurrence aircraft is still on the ground in Boston about 44 hours after landing. So it seems to me it wasn't necessarily an engine vibration, but more likely an air conditioning pressurization system, high pressure pipe that burst. And that would cause a lot of vibrations, I would imagine.
Yeah, there's no indication they shut an engine down or even brought it back to idle. So I think you're right, Jeff.
But, that's one of the first things that I think all of us think of when you hear something about really bad vibrations. What's on the airplane that's going to be really vibrating badly? And that's usually going to be the engine. But in this case, probably not. So, looks like they handled it pretty well.
Yeah, it's an unusual one to have to divert for an air conditioning duct problem.
may have been causing. Well, they said they weren't able to control the temperature in the back of the airplane, so that's not going to be a good thing to do.
No, it's certainly not.
And then, perhaps pressurization may have been an issue as well. I don't know. Yes, it was. Liz, our producer, adds that this was not a normal flight. It was a special flight from Vegas to Paris because at the time, the it used to be called Consumer Electronics. CES, Consumer Electronics Symposium or something like that. But now they just say CES, and they don't tell you what it stands for. But it's a big industry consumer electronics trade show in Vegas, and they created a couple of special flights to bring people back directly from Vegas to Paris. Okay. H. This is a final report and analysis of Smartlynx A321 at London on July 22nd of last year. Low on approach. Let's see, a Smartlynx Airbus A321-200 on behalf of Thomas Cook, registration Yankee Lima Charlie Quebec, performing flight 505 from Dalaman, Turkey to London Stansted, England, with 211 passengers and 8 crew. Oh, there's a lot of people on that airplane. Was an approach to Stansted's runway 22, the threshold of which had been displaced due to works in progress. A revised RNAV procedure, the RNAV 22C, had been introduced, which was steeper based on the displaced threshold. The aircraft was observed lower than required over the works area and touched down near the displaced threshold. The Air Accidents Investigation Branch released their bulletin concluding the probable cause of the serious incident was, having read the relevant flight documentation paperwork, the pilot's mindset was that the runway works at Stansted were not active during their approach. Confirmation bias appears to have played a part in the pilot's selection of the wrong approach procedure and may have contributed to ATC not detecting the error. The a reminder to follow PAPI indications was misinterpreted as an instruction to ignore them.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I read that same sentence and had the same reaction. What? How do you misinterpret that?
Well, I'd need to see what they wrote in the documentation to be sure, but I'm going 180 out. That's not good.
Right. Again, probably something to do with confirmation bias. The incident highlighted the importance of correct and complete radio transmission phraseology. So they were the first aircraft to make an approach to the airfield after the displaced threshold had been established on the evening of Monday, 22 July 2019. The pilots did not realize that they were required to follow the RNAV 22C procedure. I guess that's 22 center, right? Procedure. And
I don't think so. There's not a center runway at Stansted.
Okay, so it is. So it's a special RNAV procedure.
Yeah.
And they flew the standard RNAV arrival, anchored at threshold 22. Okay, so that's the original threshold, not the displaced threshold. And just so people understand what a displaced threshold is, it's just there's a normal threshold, and then if the threshold is displaced, it's a certain distance away from the original threshold. So the runway becomes shorter, and you have to adjust your aim point longer so that you touch down further down the runway. So obviously the works that were being accomplished were around the original threshold or maybe just shy of it, but they wanted to keep an area clear vertically of airplanes coming in. So they flew the standard procedure, and the aerodrome tower controller thought that the aircraft looked slightly lower than the traffic on final approach during the previous night's reduced distance operation, but they were not sure. As the aircraft approached 4 miles, the controller issued landing clearance and added, "Caution, displaced threshold and reduced landing distance available. Do not fly below PAPI indications." How do you misinterpret that?
Well, if you think below says follow, that's how.
Okay.
Because the next sentence says they interpreted "do not fly below the PAPI" as "do not follow the PAPI." And when you think about it, those two words could sound similar.
Yeah, true. So the aircraft was seen to be lower than expected over the works area. The crew did not see any obstructions on the runway, did not notice anything untoward during their approach and landing. So it goes on to talk about their investigation. Anything else in here, Nick, that or Dana, that do you think might be significant for us to talk about? They do have a graphic here of what the normal approach path should be for the procedure to take them to the displaced threshold and what they actually flew. And it looks like they just flew the normal RNAV approach. But they did not touch down before the displaced threshold. It should be added here. But they were much lower than they should have been over the area where the people were working.
Yeah, they flew a very shallow approach. There's a safety zone built in between the displaced threshold and the area where works was being done. So they had a bit of a safety factor in there, but they were flying about 50 feet low, lower than they should have been over those workmen, which probably gave them a little bit of a scare, I'd have thought.
Yeah. Well, run away.
Yeah.
Ugh. Okay. And I guess what we could learn from that is that we just have to pay particular attention when things are not normal and try not to have that confirmation bias. I mean, it's easy to say and sometimes difficult to do.
That's true. But I think a certain element has to be down to the language. This is a Latvian airline. So their standard of English may not be as high as ours. So, it's perhaps an understandable error they made when they heard the air trafficker.
Yep. True.
It's true.
It's true. Item I. So I just mentioned CES and the special flights that Delta Airlines put together to bring the folks directly from Vegas to Paris. Well, here's something that was unveiled at CES, and I guess I need to find a sound effect that would be appropriate here. Now, the trick will be if I can actually find the sound effect.
Well, do you want me to just go and put the Hoover on?
You could do that. That might be the best thing to do, but I cannot find it. So I'm going to look over here in this one. This will be all edited out. You can hear it.
You can bet your life on that.
Why are you laughing like that? Darn it. Okay. It's not in my iPad soundboard, but I can play this right here. There we go. All right, now I need to get back to my notes. Where did they go? Here we are. Okay. One of the new products unveiled at CES this year is a new kind of home security system, one that includes drones to, how did you know, patrol your property, along with sensors designed to mimic garden light and a central processor to bring it all together. Sunflower Labs debuted their new Sunflower Home Awareness System, which includes the sunflowers, motion and vibration sensors that look like simple garden lights that can populate a map to show you cars, people, and animals on or near your property in real time. The Bee, a fully autonomous drone that deploys and flies on its own with cameras on board to live stream audio or video. And the Hive, a charging station for the Bee, which also houses the brains of the operation for crunching all the data gathered by the component parts. Now, Nick's home here is very automated. There are a lot of things going on, voices, warning about certain things happening around here. Are you thinking about getting one of these systems?
I don't think my property is quite big enough to justify it. And I think you'd need a fairly large property. I think the idea is that rather than having just a few cameras, stuck around your house, if you've got a big property and with a large boundary, you might have motion sensors out at that boundary, but you can't see what's going on, whether it's an animal has crossed your boundary or whether it's some ne'er-do-wells creeping up on your house. And in that case, it would be handy to have a camera to go and to deploy down to take a look. So I guess for a well-off chap who has a nice beautifully big house, it might be useful to have this. And it sounds like it's fairly automated. The drone will take itself off, go down there and take a look, and then relay the video back to you so you can assess what's going on.
It keeps you from having to get out of bed to grab the baseball bat or the gun or whatever it is you're going to grab, and then walk downstairs over the door.
You mentioned that. I'm a bit disappointed it doesn't have a gun so that you can go, oh, I don't like the look of that bloke. And that would save you getting out of bed.
That's an option that you can add.
Oh,
no, I'm just kidding.
Get the drone to kill him.
So
shoot him. It's
pretty affordable though. It starts at $9,950 and can range up depending on your specific property's custom needs. Probably the gun. The company is accepting pre-orders now with a deposit of $999 required, and intends to start delivering the first orders to customers beginning sometime in the middle of the year.
Hey Jeff, I think you should buy this for your luscious in extensively large estate.
Yes, I should.
There you go. That would
but
be
actually,
good use for it.
I want people to visit me. Yeah.
You can always, I think one of the options is you can equip it with a flashbang grenade.
Ooh, really? Cool. Seriously?
No, not really.
Okay. I bet maybe that is an option. I don't know. That would be cool. Of course, your neighbors may draw weary of that.
Yeah.
Well, it just looks like lightning.
Yeah, true.
And sounds like thunder.
There you go. All right. Last item in our news folder. An event occurred at John F. Kennedy International on the 10th of January. I guess that's Friday. There was a runway incursion there. And let's start off by listening to, courtesy of VAS Aviation, and ATC Live ATClive.net, I believe. Audio from the incident.
Delta 300, hold for the runway 22 ready. What is the gate number?
22.
Thank you. Delta 253, wind 180 at 5. Runway 22 right, cleared for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, 22 right, Delta 253.
Tower number 5255, Iowa 22 right.
And there 5255, Kennedy Tower, caution way turbulence, 5.5 miles in Boulevard, heavy Airbus 350, wind 180 at 5, runway 22 left, clear to land.
22 left, clear to land, airport 255.
Delta 300.
Delta 253 is aborting takeoff. Ground Delta 9.1 on Bravo, you're holding short of Hotel Bravo. Our gate's occupied.
Delta 300, you're instructed to hold short of runway 22 right.
You maybe said that, but I also repeated that clear to cross, and I'm sorry about that. We missed that.
You absolutely did not. Delta 300, what was the gate number?
22. 22. You asked us that, and I also assumed that you said clear to cross, and I repeat that. I thought that's what you said.
I said hold short of 22 right, and I asked you for your gate number, but
well, that's my fault. I misheard what you said and repeated back the wrong thing.
Jeffrey 1374, taxi by Google and Golf, hold short of runway 22 right.
Google Golf, hold short 22 right, just 674. Hey, just confirm for Delta 253, you want us right on Golf, right on Bravo?
Delta 253, affirmative, right on to taxiway Golf, right Bravo, and hold short of Foxtrot, stay with me. The reason why I canceled that takeoff clearance is because of traffic on the runway.
Okay, copy that.
Delta 300, what would you like us to do?
Delta 300, continue output to the ramp for now, monitor ground 121.9.
Output to the ramp, 121.9. Roger.
We got away with it.
Delta 300, you still up?
Yes.
Delta 300, possible pilot deviation. We're going to need you to call the tower here, advise you to copy the phone number.
Okay.
Ouch.
So I don't know, to give them the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps, this is, thank you, Liz, live ATC. Every time I kept saying ATC Live, I'm thinking that doesn't sound right. Liveatc.net. The audio from it, perhaps the transmission that the pilot or the co-pilot, whoever's talking on the radio, is most likely the first officer, made regarding holding short and then reading back a crossing instruction. Maybe the live ATC thing didn't pick it up, but based on what we do here on these live ATC tapes, he didn't read back anything. He didn't read back a hold short. He didn't read back a cross 22 right. The only thing he said was the gate that I heard.
Yeah, and that's the only readback he did, which is probably the piece of information that was the least important.
Right, exactly. And then it was funny because the tower controller said to the other Delta flight, the 253, the reason why I canceled your takeoff clearance is because, and I'm thinking, well, you really didn't cancel his takeoff clearance. They said that we're aborting. They canceled their own takeoff clearance.
Yeah. There was a loud exclamation in there.
Yeah, and it almost sounded like it reminded me of my mom yelling at me, Delta 300.
Yeah, I can only assume there's something in there because there was a little bit of over transmission as well. So there were some things we missed. And the only thing I'm going to say in the crew's defense was that this latest transmissions, at times they were well paced and very clear. At times they were very, very fast. That very first clearance, which included the gate number bit, I thought was unbelievably quick. And I would have had to ask her to say that again.
And that never, ever happens at John F. Kennedy International.
Never.
No. But it's just that many of our other transmissions were beautifully paced and very clear. But I think we have to acknowledge the fact that although Live ADC does a fantastic job, not all the recordings are a true representation of what you're hearing in the cockpit.
Right. And what I have to wonder here is, at what point was that clearance issued? Not that I'm giving the guys an excuse. But are they slowing down through 80 knots and trying to make the taxiway high speed and trying to control the aircraft and get it off the runway safely? And that's what air traffic controllers have a tendency of doing, is hitting you with all that before you're even off the runway. So there's if you look at 22 left and 22 right in JFK, the runways are parallel, but they're not particularly close together. So there's some time there.
There is,
There's some distance. So, the crew may have been very busy trying to deal with the maybe the FO had landed, transferring the aircraft. I'm just throwing out these different scenarios. And obviously you're not supposed to start cleaning up the aircraft until you're clear of the active runway. Maybe they get given that clearance just at the same time the captain said after lane checklist. So there may have been some other distractions there, because clearly he missed every bit of that transmission except for what gate number it was.
And it could also have been the fact that sometimes, as you know, Dana, especially at Kennedy, they request that we call our operations folks to confirm the gate. And when that happens, then the captain says, I'll be on number 1 radio to do all the transmissions and everything else while you talk to the company and confirm our gate. And sometimes it's not a good idea to do that until you're finished passing all the active runways in use. But it happens quite commonly though at Kennedy, where we're waiting to get clearance to cross the inboard runway, which is the takeoff runway in this case. And so, okay, I'm going to punch the number 1 comm button. I'm going to be responsible for these communications while my first officer make sure that we have a gate and what the gate is and that kind of thing. And perhaps that was the captain making the radio transmission. So I'm not, it's just hard to tell really. I don't recognize any voices, but or why would I? It's a different company. It's not acting.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
So but I mean, I think there was blatantly a problem there. Now I can't remember if New York has fitted the reel system to prevent these sort of incursions.
REIL. Well, that's actually runway and identifier lights, but I know what you're talking about. Those lights that keep you from these red lights, these stop bar lights.
Perhaps they're REL or something. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. They call them
runway incursion something. Anyway, there are a series of automated red lights that will either show. They will show on the both the takeoff and end and the landing end, and also crossing taxiways. If you've got 2 aircraft that are trying to access the same, I thought Dana just had a heart attack.
Looked like it. Are you okay, sir?
He's just clutched his chest and jumped a mile.
Somebody must have just come into the room.
Oh my God! I was so in tuned and listening to what Nick was saying that when Julie came and put the cup of tea and the cup of water down and scared the crap out of me.
It was almost as if she threw them at you or something. Your reaction.
I was just like, wow.
Okay.
All right. Well, sorry.
Everything's okay there. That's good. I don't, it's been a couple of years since I've flown to Kennedy, so I don't know if they have that kind of system there or not. Dana, do you recall?
Yeah, my recollection is that they don't. But again, like you, I haven't been there in a long time. Yeah. So
LaGuardia was putting them in. I do remember that. They had them in several of those crossing intersection crossings and that kind of thing. But anyway, that's what I recall, but I could be wrong about that as well.
I mean, I think we have a classic situation of the Swiss cheese model and probably task saturation, and not paying attention and assumption as to what they were expecting for a call. So you get all that thing, I think, come into play here.
I agree.
Yeah, they're termed RELs, not
Rails. Okay.
RELS, runway entrance lights.
Oh, okay.
So they prevent runway incursions, and I've seen them in LA when we operated from there, and they're really good. I mean, they're independent of any controller or pilot, so they give you a completely independent indication that that there are two aircraft or aircraft and a vehicle, for example, are trying to access the runway at the same time.
Our producer has looked it up, and she says that they do have the system there, but it may be in some of the taxiway runway junctions, but maybe not all. Juliet is one of the midfield or 3/4 down 22 right crossing. I can't imagine that if they do actually have it right there at that particular taxiway, that anybody would roll over.
No,
red lights.
No, it's pretty damned obvious.
Yeah, it's like, are you sure?
Half blind.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I was going to say in DFW, I think that was the first launch airport, if I remember correctly, and it's pretty darn pronounced. I mean, it's red lights straight across that runway crossing whole line. So if it was red and they still crossed, that would be pretty.
That's even more damning if it was red.
Yeah,
and it actually works at that intersection. And Liz seems to think she's looking at a diagram, and it looks like they do have them working at Juliet.
I suppose I could get go get my iPad and verify that.
Oh yeah, I guess I could use the one that's right here in front of me. That'd be a great idea. Why don't we do that?
Get our 50 percentile.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't feel like walking downstairs right now. My bum Achilles.
Okay.
It's okay. Jeff's on it.
I'm on it.
He doesn't remember how to make it work, but
no.
he's on it.
Well, it's been a few days since I've flown, and I can't remember everything. Okay.
I guess we'll take this out in the edit.
Oh yeah, you can count on it.
What is that? A man sitting on a toilet or something?
No, it's a simulator. It says flight safety.
Right. Okay.
Since we're talking about this type of topic, it's almost kind of perfect. Flight safety.
Well, on the airport diagram, the 10-9, it doesn't have any indication of that lighting system anywhere. I'm not sure it actually would if it was actually
probably
installed.
on a separate page, I'm afraid.
Let me check this one. Now, this one, the AMM, forgot what that stands for, has a little bit more detail regarding things, but I don't, again, think it has anything to do with lighting. It does show, the hold short lines at Juliet and 22 right, but I don't think it has any information regarding
a good comparison to figure it out would be comparing to Dallas.
Yeah,
pull up DFW then.
But I think that Nick might be looking up the FAA website. That link that.
Well, I'm just looking to find anything. But
look at that! Our producer is on it. I'm going to click on this, and it says runway status lights at New York JFK, and runway entrance lights are installed at Juliet and 22 right, and hotel. Now we don't know what the status was of the RELS system, the runway status lights, at the time.
Mind you, if you in your threat and error briefing, if you see that an important safety feature like that, which you'd normally expect is not serviceable, you hopefully would include it and say,
yeah,
as I do or did in all my briefings, particularly when we're on the ground. I would say when we get a runway crossing clearance, we're both to acknowledge it and to each other before we actually make the crossing. So just in case one of us has misheard, in other words, it was never allowed that one pilot was allowed to understand the crossing and take the aircraft across. You both had to have heard it and acknowledged between the two of you that that's correct. That's how important we felt about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are a bunch of NOTAMs for today regarding taxiway A, clear bar light for taxiway Quebec out of service, taxiway C between so they have some NOTAMs for some of these systems out of service. I don't see taxiway Juliet included in any of these NOTAMs right now, but it may have been that when this incident occurred that perhaps they were unserviceable. I don't know. But I'm sure that that's going to be something that will be looked at in the investigation.
Yeah, there are plenty of hotspots at New York, and they're desperately trying to make sure that they don't get incidents. So something like this is really sad when everyone's trying to make such great efforts to avoid what is a potentially nightmarish situation.
Yep. Okay. Liz says she'll put those two links in this item, ITSN.
Good job. Thanks, Liz.
All right. Great. Well, that means that we are finished with items in our news folder for today's episode. And lucky you, that means it's time to get to know us.
Well, I already know you, Jeff.
Getting to know all about you. Come on.
Oh, no.
Like you.
Definitely not.
No?
I don't know the words.
We'll just make some up. That's what I do.
Okay.
All right. That's too late. Now it's fading off into the sunset. So, Dana, let's start with you. What have you been up to since the last episode?
Nothing.
All right. We'll move on then from. Now, wait a minute. Can you elaborate a little bit?
I figured I'd get a little reaction out of you guys. Yeah, I am remiss. I was updating my phone and making sure I backed it up on my computer, and I was going through some of the photographs to eliminate some photographs off my phone and store them properly. And I came across a photograph of myself and an Acme flight attendant who came up and said, "Hi, Captain Dana. I recognize you from the APG." So we had, this is before Christmas time. Of course, Christmas got a little crazy with our schedules, and I kept on forgetting it. And I do apologize. Her name is Nanette Levy, and she's an Acme flight attendant. We had a very nice sit-down talk, kind of a mini meetup. I asked, we took a photograph, but she said, please don't show it. And I asked her to do a little audio clip, and she said, nah, I would prefer not to. So I just want to reach out and say hello to Nanette. And finally reaching out and saying hello.
Did she say that she has met me before? That name sounds familiar. I think I know who Nanette is.
Yes,
and we've met a few times.
I think she has said that she's met you.
All right.
So,
hi, Nanette.
But now we're talking about a month ago.
Yeah. I haven't met Nanette. I feel left out.
Well, you have been.
You have been left out on purpose. Just like that guy Nick. I never want to meet him.
No,
Excuse me.
I can't blame her, I must admit.
I don't blame her one bit either. Other than that, I'm sad that I was not able to hop across the pond. I was intending on working, and I'm still out with my Achilles issue, at least through this next trip. It is getting better, but Achilles tendons, as most people that have ever had an injury down there know that it takes a little bit longer for it to heal because the blood flow through that area is a little bit more restricted. So,
and you said you've had some surgeries even on that, right?
Yep, I've actually had 2 surgeries on this left side, and the first one failed. And the surgeon who actually just went and saw last week had said, "Yeah, you're that guy." And I said, "Yeah, I know. I'm that memorable." So it was it had failed, and it was about 80% detached when on the second surgery occurred. And they had to go into my calf and extend down about 3/4 of an inch of my Achilles tendon in reattach it again, clipping off the bad stuff. So this one is already prone to some issues. So it sometimes gets sensitive, but with the extra work I'm using my feet as a captain, it just got exasperated. So not not really work related, but more or less just an old injury coming back to not to haunt me. Not that I should be talking about this on air, but it really is irrelevant because it's really something's really happening. So
yeah,
I'm hoping that with some more rest, it is starting to improve, and I'm going to see my chiropractor who's doing cold laser therapy, and manipulating it and getting into position and protecting it with a cast. That hopefully I'll be back to work sooner than later. But I am missing being in the sky, and this gives me something to look forward to. Seeing you guys.
Yes,
not that that's something to really look forward to.
No, what, going back to work?
No, seeing you guys. Okay. No, I'm only kidding. I'm really only kidding.
Extra work with his feet as captain, kicking his FOs.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm glad you guys were there to represent, and I did watch the 300th, and I don't know why or what got into me or why I didn't, but I do apologize to you and congratulate you guys on your 300th episode. And Plain Talking UK, by the way, if everybody's wondering what I'm talking about here. Anyways, 300th episode, and I didn't do a recording, and that was stupid of me, and I apologize, and I take full hit on that one for not doing so. But,
yeah, we told them, you said hi and congratulations and all that kind of stuff. We're good. Yeah. So don't say any of the stuff you just said.
It's not what he said, actually. He said he couldn't be bothered. He couldn't be bothered to send
You want to know what? As I said to Dr. Steph in the text this morning, because I'm just absolutely flabbergasted and amazed how Dr. Steph is always doing something, going somewhere, traveling the world. And I'm a homebody. Not that I was looking for excuses. I really actually took that weekend off originally to be in the UK, but I don't like to, as everybody knows, I don't like to travel. I just don't like doing it. So it's because I do it all the time.
A lot to be said about staying at home and enjoying the pleasures of being in your own home, your own bed, that kind of thing.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but that really wasn't the reason why I didn't make it. It's because there's many reasons. So anyways,
you're unhealthy.
No, I'm unhealthy.
Yeah.
Clearly, I'm just not a healthy guy.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm missing you guys, and I wish I was there, but I'm going to give you a hug from all the way over here. And the wonderful, and you're talking about raining over there in the UK. We have been getting torrential downpours here as well. So it's just the opposite end of the spectrum as you guys. It's torrential rain, but it's also, I have the air conditioning on in January. It's nearly 70 degrees here.
Wow. That's about
last I checked,
19 degrees C or something like that.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much the same temperature then.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm just, for those who are into Celsius, when you say 70, I think it's about 19.
No, it's definitely not 19.
No, it's not. No, it's a little chilly and brisk, and yeah.
In fact, this house is feeling a bit nippy, I think.
Actually, it feels pretty good to me right now.
Does it? Okay.
Maybe it's because I'm sitting next to you, I'm getting hot.
I could be.
Yeah.
I'm a bit. Are you sure you're getting what?
That went right over his head.
Yeah, not for long.
Yeah,
he came back like a bang, like a boomerang, and hit me in the back of the head.
Current temperature here 63 degrees, high forecast high of 68. So right there, about 17 to 19 degrees.
Right here. Where?
Here.
Oh, there. Okay.
Here in the wonderful estate called Atlanta, or my house, or whatever you want to call it.
Okay. I didn't realize it was a state, but
no, with 13 degrees here, with a yellow rain warning in place.
But the wind chill has to be a lot lower because there's a lot of wind out there. A lot of wind, very strong wind.
Well, I mean, very much like New England. England, when it gets cold and raw, and rainy. It just the temperature just permeates everything. It just
Yeah.
feels really
It's kind of
cold.
the way it is here. It's just everything. It's just raw.
Yeah.
Very cold and wet. And
Yeah. It's currently gusting 60 miles an hour here.
Yeah.
60?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
You still have power?
Oh, yeah, you bet.
Wow.
It's England, for goodness sakes.
Yeah. Well, a lot of our cables run underground.
I have to admit that the day that you came to pick me up on Friday morning, it was a lovely day.
Oh, it was.
Blue sky.
Yeah, we had the roof down for a bit just to experience it.
On his car, not the house.
He had his top off. What? Wait, hold on.
Well, that was later on. Okay. Let's see here. So, thank you, Dana. Again, we missed you, and but you were well represented there. So we all said a good word for you to the PTU cares. Before we talk about that, last trip that I was on, I saw a couple of people. I think I mentioned. Well, actually, it was a trip before, and I mentioned on the last show that I'd met Peter with his wife and one of his daughters in the Atlanta airport, and he sent in a photo that his wife had snapped of the two of us in the Atlanta concourse. Let's see, I hope that was one of the ones that I put in the here. That I see it. I see it. Okay, hang on. Bear with me, everybody. Share screen and Chrome tab, and which one of these is it? I'm going to say this one. Share. Yes. So his wife, I think, posted this on Facebook. And so that's Peter. Still don't know his last name, but that doesn't matter. It was great meeting you. And there we are right in the middle of the Atlanta concourse, blocking traffic. And, the people that really make me upset and swear at, that's what I was doing with Peter. Yeah, in the middle. Yeah,
is that Acme's logo?
Yes, that's Acme's logo. Shut up. Actually, no, that was I saw somebody, a friend of mine who works for Delta Airlines, and I said, "Can I wear your cap for a moment?" And he goes, "Yeah, sure." He was a nice guy. So
he was, wasn't he? And the same size head.
Yes,
That's
exactly
remarkable.
the same size head. Okay, enough of that. And let's see what else. Oh, I just wanted to do a shout out to Jen Niffer. She does a wonderful blog entitled Tales from the Terminal, Adventures at the Airport and Other Random Musings. And I thought it was a very interesting thing. We've talked a lot on our show about the pilot shortage. And so the title of this blog post is Looming Pilot Shortage, Not Kid Stuff. And she goes to talk about, she believes she understands now why there is such a shortage of pilots. And believe it or not, it has something to do with child's play toys and the little thing like the Fisher Price things. And, you have the airport and the runways and everything else. And if you want to see all the details and her brilliant analysis, please check out a little bit of tongue in cheek there. The Looming Pilot Shortage, Not Kid Stuff by Jen Niffer. And that is at Tales from the Terminal. And what is this that it
was something you need to put up in the next bit.
Okay, very good, thank you. Should I set that up at the moment here so it's all ready?
Oh, why not?
Okay. Where'd you send that?
APG.
Okay. Why can I not scroll down? There we go. Oh yeah. I will let's see. I hope that I can do this. We'll just put it there like that. Okay. And let me get back to my show notes. I think that was about all I was going to mention, other than this wonderful time that I've had so far flying from Atlanta to Heathrow on Thursday evening. We have two flights, Acme does, Acme 30 and Acme 32, that leave Atlanta for Heathrow. The first one around 7:30ish in the evening, and the other one around 10 o'clock, 10:15, something like that, 10:10. And it was looking more and more as we got closer and closer to the time for the boarding process to happen. Actually, in the middle of boarding process, I was there for the earlier flight. I had checked my bag because I had an extra bag that I normally don't take with me when we come over here to the. Actually, I do take it with me. Why did I have to check a bag? How is it I was able to do this before and didn't check a bag?
I was going to say, why did you check a bag?
I think it's a question we've often asked ourselves.
Well,
Didn't
after the
you
show,
learn?
I'm gonna really think about it. But anyway, for some reason, I added an extra bag that I probably didn't need to take with me. Oh, I know why. Never mind. Okay, so I checked the bag, and then I looked at the number of seats that were available for Delta One. Excuse me, Acme One, which is.
Well, when you're flying, you have.
Okay.
Don't you have staff travel rights with Delta?
Yes, that's it.
Yes.
Oh, well,
So
let's just forget about what airline it was. And there were like 4 of these really nice lie flat seats available. And it looked from the way I was looking at everything that I was just going to miss it. And I thought, let me check the next flight, the later flight. Oh, a whole bunch of those. Well, 6 that were available. And I was number 1 on that list. And I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to go. And this is going to work out better for Nick to pick me up.
Oh yeah,
here.
I was going to avoid the rush hour traffic, which was quite important for me.
So I thought, hey, win-win. Went to the thing I was concerned about because my bag was already in the checked baggage system, and I knew that if I didn't make that earlier flight, that it was not going to go on the airplane, and I'm not sure what would happen with it or to it. And so I went to the Acme ticket counter. Or not ticket counter, but one of the places where they help you out. Where this is inside of security in the concourse, and said, I've rebooked myself on the later flight. What about my bag? And they said they did something on the computer and said, no problem, you got it. And gave me a piece of
sending
paper.
an email going, that bloke on the earlier flight lose his bag.
Yeah, I see here that he's a pilot, so get rid of his bag. So ended up coming, and I kind of had a feeling that the bag wasn't going to make it. And I arrived the next morning, Friday morning, and waiting for the bag and the baggage claim carousel. And then I heard my name being paged, and I thought, yeah, I know what this is about. So no problem. Yeah, actually, it didn't work out.
I might point out, in the meantime, I'm dodging policemen doing laps around the airport.
Yeah, I do apologize for that. He did send me a couple of nasty text messages saying, "What are you doing?
Where
What's
the hell
taking
are
so
you?"
long?" And so, but the next day, because of the Plane Talking UK podcast's 300 episode celebration, which Dana was mentioning earlier, that we were coming back to Heathrow anyway, because that's where the event took place at the Renaissance, right at Heathrow Airport. So I thought, yeah, no problem, just one extra day without clothes, and they set me up here with deodorant, thank goodness, and toothpaste, toothbrush, all that kind of stuff. So I was good to go over here. So it wasn't really a major inconvenience at all. And sure enough, it did make it into that in that next morning. And Nick took me over there, picked it up, and got all my clothes back, and we're good to go. So
we all breathed a sigh of relief and took the pegs off our noses.
Yes, I did notice that. People started approaching me a little bit more closely.
That's right. Yeah.
We were there that morning, and the meetup gathering, etc. Had a little bit of lunch, and then the event, the live recording occurred. We'll have a link to that in the show notes, so you can watch the 300 episode celebration. But Nick and Steph and I were invited to be in that panel. And Dana would have been as well if he had been there on that front panel, along with other podcasters, including the 3 PTUK hosts that were over here in England and always are here in England. And Armando was
he joined from behind the curtain. In reality, on a video link from where he was holding standby back home.
Yes, he's now a fully fledged, checked out, on the schedule reserve pilot for boutique. I believe. Well, maybe I'm not supposed to say that. For a small airline that flies
a boutique airline.
PT. What do they call those? PC-12s.
Lattice.
PC-12s, and I think they also fly some King Airs, I believe. But anyway, so he's all checked out on the PC-12, and he wasn't able to make it. But it was funny because every time he started talking, it seems like every time I was about to say something is when Armando would jump in. Maybe that was his role. Yeah, as soon as you see
disembodied voice,
as soon as you see Nielsen starting to talk, just jump in. But it was funny because we didn't see him on the screen or anything, and everybody would be going, like, "Where's that coming from?"
It was like Dr. Bob. Do you remember on the Muppets? They used to be doing a skit about when they were doing an operation, and all of a sudden this voice would come, and they would stop and start looking around, see where the voice is coming from.
Exactly like that. Anyway, great time. Lots of folks there for the celebration. All of them PTUK listeners, and several of them also APG community members, and it was a great time. So, after the celebration, we had a very nice dinner at the hotel, and then we went over to a pub. Cake. Oh, the cake was amazing. I probably should have put a picture of that in the notes here, but I'll put it in the show notes.
It's a bit of a "that's what she said" picture.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay. I guess so.
I'm just going by the shape of the cake.
Oh, it was a very erect tower.
Yes, it was.
Yes. The control tower at Heathrow. Beautiful cake. Very, very realistic. And very tasty. Okay.
And then we went to the Magpie for a few beers.
The 3 Magpies.
Yeah. And who else was there? We had Fred.
Yeah.
We had Tanya flew all the way from New York. So Fred flew over from San Francisco. We had the lovely Mila, who came across from Europe, mainland Europe.
From Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd actually met Mila in person, and it was the weirdest thing. And many of you can kind of share this experience where you think you have met this person because you know them from social media and all the different things that we do on the podcast. And then when I saw her for the first time, I went, "Oh, I don't think we've actually met in person." And so that was very nice to see Mila.
We had Jan from Berlin.
Yeah.
And I'm probably leaving people out, but there were some regulars. There was Richard, not far from me, down on the Isle of Wight.
Stuart.
Yep. And of course, Adam Spink, who gave a great talk in the morning all about BA 38 and the incident at Heathrow Airport, which he witnessed as the supervisor in the Tower of the Day, and that was a really good one because he was able to cover things that he perhaps wouldn't do in a more public environment. But no, it was there were a great bunch of people, and everyone seemed to enjoy themselves.
Yes, great time had by all. And then the next morning, most of us went down and had our full English breakfast.
Twice.
Or 3 times if you wanted. And then everybody started dispersing. And
yes, there were plenty of people to take back to the terminal. So I got my little red car out and was rushing back and forth.
I just found the photo that Liz sent me of the cake. And let me see if I can share it with our viewers on the video here. Dun, dun. And I'm going to, there it is. Bingo. Look at that thing.
So one slightly amusing thing about it is the red, looks like a Lego brick at the bottom of the tower shaft, which is actually the external lift. And Adam was mentioning that on the day of the incident when the BA 777 crashed, he had been stuck halfway up the column when the lift failed, and no one knew where he was. Yeah, because
actually nobody missed him. To be honest,
no, he'd forgotten his mobile phone, left his mobile phone down below, and the alarm system in the lift had failed. So he was stuck there for an hour or two, until eventually a pilot taxiing past the tower was looking up, saying, "That lift doesn't normally stop there," and told ground, and they sent someone down to rescue him.
Yeah, so it was a pilot in an airplane. I think.
Yeah, that's right.
That noticed that somebody was waving frantically from the lift,
hanging on the side of the tower. Yeah,
wow, that's funny.
That is. It was a good story. Great presentation by Adam Spink.
Yeah, he's a good talker. Yes.
Yeah. He makes most of everything up. No, I'm just kidding. That's not true. Anyway, so that was a lot of fun. And then later in the, well, I guess about midday, Nick and I headed back. Oh, by the way, have to mention that Nick picked me up from the airport, took me back to the airport, and then took me back here to his wonderful home. He and Jilly's wonderful place. It feels like I'm in a luxury resort and I'm on vacation. No, seriously. But in his brand new Audi Quattro, black edition or something like that. A
GT black
TT.
edition. Don't
Nice
tell everyone on there can be coming to pinch it off my
yeah.
drive.
Yeah, well, it's heavily fortified, so don't even try it.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a great car. It's amazing. It's very, very nice.
I personally, my piles don't like the ride too much. It's quite a firm ride. No, I'm only joking. It's actually, I'm very pleased with it. It's a good car.
Yes. Tanya got a ride in it. He took Tanya over to the Terminal 5 for her flight.
Yeah, she seemed to enjoy
Several
that.
people ended up getting some rides in the car. I
Even
think.
Stephanie.
Yeah. So that's about all there is to say about that. So we really enjoyed the PTUK party and celebration. And congratulations again to all of you over at the PTUK. And just wanted to let you know we're always going to be 100 ahead of you. At least.
Yes.
Well, I say that, but
Absolutely.
that may not actually be true. Let's hope so anyway.
Yeah.
So, but having a great time here. One of the things that Nick and I did yesterday, he felt compelled to, take me somewhere or show me something. He didn't need to, but I'm glad he did because I love gin. And he is starting to become someone who appreciates it as well.
Oh, yes.
And he knew that my favorite gin is made by Bombay Sapphire Distillery. And he said, do you know that the Bombay Sapphire Distillery is not too far from where I live? And I said, I did not know that. And so he did some checking online and found that they did have a tour and signed us up for the 2:15. And so we headed up that way. And it's in Hampshire, which is where you are, I guess, the county of Hampshire. Right?
Yes, that's right. It's not far from Basingstoke.
Laverstoke or something like that? Laverstoke?
Laverstoke, yes,
Okay.
I think.
Beautiful. It used to be a mill. And then the company, the Bombay Sapphire Company, ended up buying the place and moving in, I think, about 2014, only about 5 years ago. But it doesn't look like it's a new distillery at all. It's it's in these old buildings. And anyway, really, really nice tour. Let me show you some pictures if you're watching the video. And if not, then you can ITSN, sorry, in the show notes for you to take a look at. And so here, let me share the screen again. And that should I start with the one that you sent me?
Oh, why not? Jeff was feeling a little bit, his digestive system was a bit of a worry, so they put up notices warning people.
There's a sign on the door that says danger, explosive atmosphere. And I'm a little concerned about that.
Yes, we actually had to, for that part of the tour, we actually had to turn our phones off, unpower them, and our watches. They were obviously a bit concerned.
She actually came up. I was looking at my watch, like I was trying to ask her if I needed to turn off my watch, but apparently she thought I was trying to figure out how to turn it off. And actually, it's the first time that it's ever been turned off. Are we supposed to turn these off when we're flying? I hope not. Anyway, she just walks up to me and
put them in flight mode, Jeff.
Oh yes, that's what I always do. And she comes up and just hits the button and holds it, and then it just shuts down. I went, oh, thank you. Actually, I was just asking if I needed to turn because she was talking about Fitbits and that kind of thing, and I was saying, does it include the Apple Watch? But anyway, little miscommunication because she speaks English. And let's see. Let me see if I can find these pictures here. I knew I was doing something. No. Where is it? Okay, let me go back to. It must have been something that I did during the show. Should I show this one? The one that was,
yes, that's the one that got us thrown out.
Let me save that one for last. The one that got us thrown out of the place. Here I'm in the what do you call this thing?
Well, it was a greenhouse, really. It was they had a Mediterranean one and a tropical one.
Yeah.
And they've got examples of all the plants to provide the botanicals that go into the gin in there. And also they've got some banana plants, which Jeff was hiding
Well, I was trying to
behind.
hide from the endless photographs that you were taking, and he caught me behind one of the banana leaves. Here is the fine Captain Nick trying to listen for some gin.
I was checking out the audio qualities of the gin.
Yes. And here's one of me in the same location at the bar, trying to look as suave and debonair as I can for somebody my age. And let's see. Here's some more good stuff. Here's one of the an example of the architecture of the
beautifully restored.
A couple of the stills inside.
The place goes back quite a few centuries, but pretty much derelict when Blue Sapphire took it over, and they've done a lovely job renovating all the old buildings.
Yes, and here's a video that Nick took. It was kind of a blustery day toward the end of the tour, and we were outside in kind of a courtyard area, and you can see if you watched the very end of the video how I was enjoying the weather. Okay, let's see if that's showing. Yeah, it is. Thankfully, you can't hear the audio. There's a lot of wind noise. So you're about to see me standing there really enjoying the weather.
With his hair in perfect place as usual.
Yeah, not being blown away like a balloon. Indiana Jones was there. Nick looking very dapper in his Indiana Jones hat and jacket. And here's one of the older stills. I think that was, which one is that? Thomas?
Yeah, that's right. Named after one of the guys who invented gin. That's I think one of their original stills still going, and still whacking out gin at a hell of a rate.
Yep. And they gave us a complimentary cocktail at the very end, and here I am enjoying that. And then I wanted more, and this is what unfortunately got us thrown out of the distillery when I actually started just drinking straight from one of the bottles on the wall. And,
they
said,
didn't like that.
No, you're out of here.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, we had a really good time over at the Bombay Sapphire Distillery
and came back with some purchases.
Yeah, a couple bottles of Sapphire, and I ended up getting a jigger. And I'm talking. It's not a verb; it's a noun. I guess it could be a verb as well, but I'm talking about this little thing to measure jiggers of gin. So anyway, had a fun time.
It was a nice place to go visit, that's for sure. Thanks.
Yes, been eating beautifully and wonderfully here at the Shea Anderson, and tomorrow I head back to reality, back home.
So that's it, really.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing since the last show.
Did you warn Nick that I'm showing up tomorrow? Following what's tomorrow? Tomorrow's what, Wednesday? I'll be there Thursday morning.
Oh no, I didn't warn him.
You didn't?
He told me not to tell him.
Oh, well, that's a shame because we're actually going to Northern Scotland tomorrow.
Oh man!
Yeah,
I better cancel that trip.
All right.
We decided to go and help the poor people that are being blown away in Scotland right now.
I bet they are.
The weather up there is pretty foul today.
Yeah.
Well,
Speaking of pretty, oh yes, sir.
I was gonna, because I was your little birdie when you went over to England. Coming back looks marvelous. I know you've looked.
Yes, especially the later flight is a lot of seats available.
Yeah, I don't think you'll have a problem.
I don't think so. In fact, I don't think I'll even have to use an S2 priority to get a nice seat on that one.
Well, I hope they don't cancel the flight because it's nearly empty.
Yeah, I hope they don't do that. No,
that would be.
Acme doesn't do that.
Hey Jeff, why don't you try for the earlier flight and use your try Acme Red, see what that's like.
Well, I could do that.
It's just a complete thought because now that there's that opportunity to do so.
Yeah,
and
I hadn't even thought of that.
And then if you don't get that comfortable seat, then you can always just hang around for an hour and 20 minutes.
Our
40 minutes.
Our flights are usually chocker. So
what's chocker?
Full. Because we're popular.
Oh.
Okay. Well, that's kind of rude.
Well, I know. No kidding. I was going to say, I know it's a pain in the butt to check Nick, but you could actually spend a little time and check for him.
No, I couldn't because I'm retired.
He doesn't have access to
get
that
onto the
stuff
website anymore.
Can't you call in like under retiree or something?
Yeah, that would be asking way too much.
Yeah,
of him,
they're
so,
probably already closed.
yeah. I'll worry about it tomorrow. All right. Thank you for the suggestion. That's a good idea.
Yeah, just an idea.
Check into that. Okay. Excellent. Well, now that we're finished with our chit chat, let's quickly take a look at the coffee fund.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea. I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup.
All right. Since the last episode, a few folks have given us contributions to the Coffee Fund. We like to call them the Coffee Fund Cadre or the Coffee Bar Club, or just wonderful, beautiful people. And there are a couple of different ways to do it. One is the Coffee Fund Classic method, and you can give a one-time or a recurring donation via that. And George Leslie was one of those who does a recurring contribution via the Classic Fund. And thank you very much, George. And we have Michael Smith gave us a one-off and a very nice one, $50. Wow. Thank you, Michael.
Oh, thank you, sir.
That'll pay for a couple of beers at the pub tonight.
At least.
At least. Yes. Thank you very much for that, Michael. And the other way to do this is to become a patron of the show. And we do have, and why didn't I write down? I thought I did that. We do have a new, shoot. Yes. Nope, that's not it. Darn it. More post editing. Dang it. So hang on, bear with me. I'm going to have to
timed
go.
out.
Yeah, I did. I know. Thank you for mentioning the obvious, Nick. Could have sworn that I was ready for this, but I was mistaken. Let me look through my email. There is a new patron, and I want to make sure that we get his name in here. So let me look in the email and see if I can find our new patron. And I get a lot of emails, so bear with me here. This is awful. I apologize. I hope Liz is taking note of the fact that we're pausing here. Patreon. And you know, either of you could like chime in and like help me vamp.
I could invent a name for you if you like.
Yeah, let's don't do that.
Charles Featheringay.
You can tell what's on his mind.
Peter Pustule.
Dana, can you help out at all?
Dana's taken himself out of the feed.
I know he has. Could you please?
I sat back down thinking I was still on the feed, and lo and behold, because I just came back from a physiological break.
Oh, okay. Hey, I found it. His name is Greg Dunn, and he is
that was going to be my next guess.
Yeah, sure it was. And he is a new executive producer.
Ooh,
so
thank you, sir.
Thank you, Greg,
Cheers.
very much for signing up to be a patron of the APG. Wow.
Which show is that?
Yeah, the APG show. Okay, there you go. Well, that was well done, wasn't it?
Yep, very professional, Jeff.
Professionally executed.
You can tell you've been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah, I know. Not. All right. Well, with that, it's now time for one of the best parts of the show, which is, of course, your feedback.
Captain, incoming message.
Okay, let's start with item 1 in the show notes. And this is from Mark. And he says, "Good day, Captain Jeff." And the title of his feedback is Big TV Star. Not really, no.
Yes.
Just curious. And this is in regard to my appearance on the Weather Channel.
As opposed to your stature?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yes, I'm very big in the midsection, that's for sure. Just curious, how is Stephanie, the weather expert on the Weather Channel, Stephanie Abrams, he's referring to?
I love he puts WC because that has different connotations here in the United Kingdom, which stands for water closet.
Yeah, maybe he was talking about Dr. Steph on the water closet. I don't know. Is she as spectacular and awesome and beautiful in real life as she is on the tube? Now, in both cases, whether he's talking about Dr. Steph or Stephanie Abrams, I can definitely say yes.
Yes.
Yes, she is spectacular and awesome and beautiful. I think Mark A has a crush on Stephanie Abrams. That's what I think. He says, "I've been an anonymous stalker." Stop it over there. I've been an anonymous stalker, a big fan for years. All right, so there you go, Mark. A quick question.
Is that a big ass fan?
Big ass, yes.
Excuse me?
He said he's a big fan. I was just curious.
Oh, no,
if it was
not
a
that
big
kind
ass fan.
I think, he a big fanatic. I think.
Okay.
Right. Item 2, Scott writes in. He says, after years of negotiations, the pilot group was finally able to implement the APG function in our ACARs. This will help us line pilots keep the show above 50% accuracy. Send in feedback.
Which we're in desperate need of.
Yes, and listen to the show after the break is set. Again, this is Scott Scotterson. He sends us a picture of the ACAR screen, and bottom right, and we'll put this this PIC ITSN. It has APG in the bottom right-hand corner. I have no. What would that be for, Dana? Do you have any idea?
No.
I guess it's actually for sending in feedback and keeping us above 50%.
Yeah,
I love that.
Much appreciated.
Thank you, Scott. For,
I mean, this ACARS. I mean, yeah, it's a Collins. It's nothing that we have.
No,
it's maybe an Airbus or even kind of looks like an RJ. Maybe
it's not Airbus.
It's probably an RJ.
Yeah, it looks like an RJ actually. Now that I'm taking a really good look at it, yeah. RJ. I've never seen I don't know.
What would that stand for? APG. Airline Pilot Guy. That's it. All right.
Yep.
I think it might be. It's been so long since I've been on that airplane now. I probably know. I do have the manual. I could look it up.
Yeah, you could do that.
Jeff, Dana said all that without moving his lips.
I know, he's very good. He's practicing his ventriloquism.
It's very good.
Are you telling me this thing froze again? All right, we're just going to stay there. I'm leaving it alone. I'm not going to touch it.
Yeah, it's fine.
With the video.
It's a good picture this time. You're not giving me the evil eye.
Well, it is a little bit
slightly
of stink eye.
And I'm looking at you both.
Yeah.
I like it. So we'll just leave it.
I am not going to screw with it today.
Okay.
And maybe when we go to Plain Tales, I'll go ahead and try it.
I don't blame you. Just leave it alone.
Yep.
Let's see. Item 3, Danny. Thought this might amuse you guys. This is Danny Corder, Managing Director at Effing Technology Limited.
Yes, very good. Which isn't far away from here.
What kind of technology?
Effing
Technology. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Airport worker almost forgets to add the chemtrails. Uh-oh. A man who refuels commercial jets has admitted he almost forgot to add the mind-controlling chemicals. Aircraft maintenance technician Wayne Hayes revealed he only remembered at the last minute to pour the big jug full of stuff into the plane's fuel tank. The substance will be sprayed out the back of the plane, and a hidden bright line of steam, hidden is in quotations, so that you can see from 40,000 feet away and will make you believe everything the deep state wants you to believe. Hay said, I'd have been in a real pickle if I forgot the secret government cabal that provides them to every airport without the public finding out would have given me a right bollocking. The last person who sent a plane off with just normal fuel was sent to the secret Illuminati jail under St. Paul's Cathedral. No thanks. Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's a very important thing to remember if you're a fueler to add the special chemicals to the fuel mix.
Exactly right. Yeah. Otherwise, we won't be able to keep the world under control.
That is from thedailymash.co.uk, obviously a site of satire. Item 4, Captain and Dr. Dirk. Captain Kirk. Dr. Kirk. That's
Captain Kirk.
Captain Kirk. I don't know. Yeah. Captain and Dr. Dirk writes in. He's a retired anesthesiologist, now flying citations for a small Part 135 company. In the last episode, 406, you discussed the CRJ 550. I had a chance to fly on one recently, and all I can say is, hooray! They finally got a regional jet right. There are plenty of seats to fit my 6'5" frame. Wow, he's a tall man. It was incredibly comfortable compared to the CRJ 200s or ERJ 145s that I get stuck flying in from the small airport in the town where I live. My prediction is that this aircraft will be very popular with passengers. I was sorry to hear about the unions being unhappy. I hope that doesn't become an impediment to seeing many more similar aircraft flying in the U.S. Thanks for the great podcast. As an aside, Dr. Steph, I'd like to start hearing that you were flying and piloting more often. That's what he means, not flying. She's flying more often. It's just, actually flying the airplane more often. So that was for Dr. Steph, if you're listening. And again, that's from Captain and Dr. Dirk, one and the same person.
I was going to say, shouldn't it be Dr. Captain Dirk?
Or Dr. Captain Dirk, yeah, because he is presently a captain.
I don't know which prenominal has precedence.
I don't know. Apparently, he thinks that I don't know. He used both, and I'm not sure.
And shouldn't he have MD after his name?
I don't know, Dirk.
Captain,
if you want to write to Nick at Airline Pilot,
I'm just curious.
To,
we'd like to get things right on this show.
Yeah, right. That's funny. Oh boy.
Well, we try.
We like to appear that we like to get things right.
We're very trying. Yes.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Trying to get things right now.
Yeah. So have you?
No.
Oh, okay. Now we can't see you. So if you're trying to interject in any way, you'll just have to interject without care.
Without putting your hand up.
Do I normally ever care?
No.
Oh, that's true. Just do what you normally do.
Okay.
All right. Item 5 from JJ, not Pittsburgh. So it's just plain JJ. He requests advice. And he says he's a longtime listener and he loves the podcast. He recently obtained a UPT slot for the Air National Guard and has been selected for the KC 135. Yay! Where's the audience? The applause. Here we go.
Well, that's brilliant news. I didn't know they were still flying those museum pieces.
Oh, here we go. I'm very excited about the opportunity and wondered if Captain Jeff or Nick might have any advice for excelling in military flight training. Keep up the good work. Cheers, JJ. Well, unfortunately, neither of us excelled in military flight training, so we really can't tell you.
I would recommend you buy your instructors lots of beer.
Yes.
That helps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, no, both of us actually did excel in our military flight training. And we talked about it a little bit when this was sent in by JJ. And I was telling Nick, I think that the most important thing that I'd say you'd have to remember that when you're doing military flight training as opposed to civilian flight training is that when you're doing civilian training, you're the one that's paying for everything. And if you screw it up, you're the one that's going to lose the money and all that kind of stuff. In the military, they're not requiring you to pay them. They're actually paying you. On the other hand, they have very, very high standards, and they have, you have to hit certain performance levels, and they don't give you any slack when it comes to if you just quite almost get it, but not quite, they're not going to say, let's go out and give you, well, they will give you a little bit of extra time and that kind of thing within reason. But you can't just keep, as in the civilian world, if you keep messing things up, you can just keep throwing money at it and eventually maybe you'll get it. But the military doesn't have the patience for that. So very high standards, very high stress levels. And I'm sure a lot of these things can be shared with both worlds, civilian and military. But you basically have one shot at it, and you got to get it right. And there might be a couple of times when you have to try it again. But as I said, they don't give you forever to get it right, and so you have to understand that they mean business. They expect you to be a military pilot, and they expect to use you and get their money's worth out of you. And that's about all I can say about that.
I was saying there's no doubt about it. The military love people who are enthusiastic about their job, want to succeed. They're go that little extra mile in their studying. They hate layabouts. They hate people who don't try. They hate people who are just taking a ride, just going along with the flow. They love the people who want to stand out, put their head and shoulders a little bit above the rest. So, work hard and, play hard and enjoy yourself, because that'll put you in the right frame of mind to succeed, I'm sure.
And, there might be a slight tendency for those who already have assignments, as you do, because you are with the Air National Guard, you're affiliated with that unit. You already know that if you make it through your pilot training, you will be flying the KC-135. Most of those that are there in military flight training don't know what their assignment's going to be, so they're really fighting hard to do the best they can to be toward the top of the class, so they can help choose, or they can have a way of possibly choosing the aircraft they want to fly. And you already know what you're going to fly. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't rest on your laurels. Keep fighting hard, just as if you don't have an assignment yet. And that will keep you up with the other people toward the top of the class.
Yeah,
I guess, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Don't forget, we're both, well divorced from that environment nowadays.
Yes.
So we're speaking from experience that we did, in my case, 40 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. So I hope that helps. But congratulations. I think you're
absolutely
going to find that it's the pilot training is just amazing. As I said, the most stressful, the hardest year of my life, and but it was worth it. Maybe at the time it didn't feel so, but after it was all over, definitely worth it. We do have some audio feedback from Stefan, or is it Stefan?
I think Stefan.
Well, I think he says maybe. Here, let's have a listen.
Hello, Captain Jeff. Hello, APG crew. Nick asked me to give you some feedback regarding episode 406 and the comment of Captain Steve made about a rather old article about the taxi bot, a pushback truck designed to pull aircrafts to the runway prior engine start. Well, I did about 3 tours with that kind of track back in 2015. Well, the idea to use a truck to pull the aircraft to the runway is not new. Pulling the aircraft to the runway could save fuel and wear on the engines, but there were always 2 big problems. ATC clearance. You had to somehow provide the truck driver directly with a ground clearance or through the pilots to avoid conflicts with other air traffic at the airport. And the towing itself, that's the other problem. The nose gear is actually not designed for repetitive tows at maximum gross weight. Sooner or later, you will put too much stress on the nose gear, reducing the lifetime of the system. The taxi bot was designed in a way to deal with this problem. So, well, it is designed, by the way. The turret, which picks up and lifts up the nose gear, can detect turning movement of the nose gear. So when lifted up and the pilot is turning the nose gear via the steering tiller, those movements are transferred to the steering system of the truck. The pilot is remote controlling the truck via the aircraft nose gear. And so he or she can steer the aircraft truck system according to the ATC clearance over the airport. Also, this turret is equipped with sensors and a damping system which detects the force on the nose gear for two reasons. To reduce acceleration and deceleration forces on the nose gear so that they stay within limits, and to detect if the pilot is playing brakes, since this is a method to determine the taxi speed. So it basically worked like this. Prior to the flight, you needed to confirm the aircraft type and the reported braking action, good, medium, poor, with the truck driver. The driver needed the actual gross weight and the center of gravity, so that truck uses the correct forces on the nose gear. The truck, or the taxi board, had two modes, driver mode and pilot mode. The flight starts as usual. After boarding, loading, removing the jetty, all that's left is the ramp gauge and the truck driver and the taxi bot, and a clearance for pushback from ramp control. The truck is now in driver mode and will perform an ordinary pushback. When the pushback is completed, you tell the truck driver to switch to pilot mode and immediately get your taxi clearance and the all clear signal from the ramp agent. No engine start is needed. Taxi is done simply by releasing the brakes. The taxi bot maintains a constant pull force at the aircraft to up to a certain speed, depending on the area where you are located and if you are in a turn. In example, on the ramp, it will not go faster than 10 knots. On set open taxiways, up to 22 knots with braking action good. Since you were lifted up, your pitch altitude was a bit higher and the steering point was 4 meters ahead of you than normal. 4 meters because the steerable wheels of the taxi board were now doing the turning job. But otherwise, taxi was quite normal. Speed control was a bit like cruise control in a car. Frequent braking reduced the max speed step by step. But after the time delay, it went slowly up again. You had to get your taxi clearance from ground control as usual. Ground control knew that you were taxi botting to inform other aircraft if needed, and they directed you to a point close to the runway. There you would set the parking brake once stopped, tell the truck driver to switch back to driver mode. He, she, the driver will assist you with the engine start as usual and give you a hand signal for all clear. And after that you were off to your own as usual, similar to a single-man pushback procedure. There are certain things we have to keep in mind. There were contingency procedures like loss of hydraulic power, loss of comm, or even other bigger problems, but they were not quite different as usual. You should brief your cabin crew prior to the operation, since they were, of course, not used to taxi around the airport without engines running, and the late engine start afterwards. And, of course, then there is the engine warm-up prior takeoff. I believe that was the point where you had your biggest concern with, that the warm-up time will eat up most of your fuel savings. Well, the engine warm-up time for most aircraft is about 2 minutes. It's not that long, I think. And only a few types need up to 5 minutes, and only if they had a longer ground time. I think more than 2 hours ground time on a A320neo, you need the 5 minutes, for example. But I think this system has some potentials depending on the type of operation and the airport. I think it would be a good idea to use it on bigger airports with long taxi times and enough space at the runway itself to accommodate aircraft starting the engine there. In example, in my mind, Amsterdam would be an example. Madrid would be an example. Huge taxiways and lots of space. The manufacturer claims fuel savings, less engine wear, less risk of FOD, foreign object damage, and one thing which I think is true, lots of time saving at very dense or cramped aprons. Since after the pushback, you can almost immediately taxi out of the area and do not block other aircraft wanted to get in or out. I think the disadvantages are the more complex towing system and perhaps more space at the runways itself. The taxibot itself uses a hybrid electrical system. It has two diesel engine-driven electrical generators providing the energy for the electric drive system. Perhaps in future they might be able to provide the engine with batteries, but actually I doubt it. It's designed to pull an A380, so it has lots of power. The system is actually in operation at Delhi Airport right now, so maybe we are going to see more of that system in future. And one more thing, I think at present stage is not designed to drive autonomously back to the apron or autonomously at all. It's a system which needs a truck driver. By the way, there are other systems in development to reduce the carbon emissions. One system, an example, is installing an electric motor directly in the aircraft wheels, powered by the APU and batteries. But there have been only small trials with that. But at least with an A320, they did that. I give you some links later on for your show notes, perhaps. I like to make another comment about aircraft trucks. Those lift-up trucks have their problems. In my career, I happened to be 3 times that I got a 30-minute plus delay to a faulty truck, which were not able to put me down again. I was stuck up there. And also some 18 years ago, they tried a new turboless truck on my aircraft. After 50 minutes, they gave up, but not prior to destroying the taxi light of my 737. Well, I hope it explains a bit about the taxibot. A big thank you again for your show and lots of greetings from Stefan in Hamburg. Bye-bye.
There we go. Stefan in Hamburg. And,
Absolutely.
I've always thought he was kind of stuck up.
Yeah, poor chap. Yeah, dear. Actually, it's really good stuff because hearing from someone who's actually experienced it and trialed it is worth its weight in gold. So thanks very much indeed for sending that in.
Yes, very much so. It's always nice to hear people that have experience with these things, and getting stuck up on the taxi bot is got to be a little frustrating, right?
I hope to see you, Stefan, next month when I head out to Hamburg to do a lecture. So I'm not there very long, but I hope to at least be able to buy him a beer. And I'm going to go and try and find a shop that sells gin sul as well.
Oh yeah,
that lovely gift, Stefan.
Yes, thank you very much for that wonderful gift, Stefan.
Yeah, very nice, very tasty.
And did you say he flies the 380?
Yeah, he's a 380 captain. Yeah,
very nice.
Yeah, he loves the airplane. Absolutely loves it.
Yeah, very nice. I was just thinking, in my mind, one of those things that might be a downside to that whole system is now you have these taxi bots having to mix it up with all the airplanes heading back to the ramp area. What if you had like a gate, like an automated gate or something, like a security gate toward the end of the runways, and then they could just go out and then just drive back on the regular roadways around the airport? I'm
sure they could. And to think about it, there are a lot of roadways around that fire trucks and things can use. They don't necessarily have to go on taxiways. They can get to airports on roads. So I'm sure they can return on those kind of roads.
Yeah. All right. Well, just an idea. It's getting close to that time where we normally do our installment of the Plane Tales. So what do you think? You want to do it right now?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
All right, let's do that. So here we go. This week's episode, the A300.
The Old Pilot's Plane Tales, the A300. This was a story I wrote for the Plane Talking UK podcast's 300th show. But it's a great tale and one I thought worth repeating. The A300 was Airbus's very first aircraft, and it took to the air in 1972. It has the distinction of being the world's first twin-engined wide-body airliner as well as the world's first ETOPS airliner. It was a very successful design that often goes unnoticed amongst the plethora of high-profile airliners out there. But there was one event that put it into the history books. Sadly, it's rarely remembered, so let me tell you about it. In 2003, a US-led coalition of forces invaded Iraq. The attack lasted just over a month, after which President George W. Bush declared mission accomplished. But for some, that declaration was a little premature, since the conflict was about to enter another phase. It would become a guerrilla war, which continued to fester well into the next decade. The Fedayeen Saddam was not part of Iraq's regular armed forces, but rather it operated as a paramilitary unit of irregulars. As a result of this, the Fedayeen reported directly to the presidential palace rather than through the military chain of command. Whereas the Iraqi army and the Republican Guard quickly collapsed, Fedayeen forces put up stiff resistance to the coalition invasion. They entrenched themselves in the cities and launched guerrilla-style attacks on supply convoys. The fall of Baghdad effectively ended their existence as an organized paramilitary, but they would continue well after. Some of its members died during the war, but a large number survived and were willing to carry on the fight even after the fall of Saddam Hussein from power. It's now November, some months after the invasion, and the French reporter Claudine Vernier-Paliez, writing for the sensationalist Paris Match news magazine, has made contact with a Fedayeen unit near Baghdad and somehow earned their trust. The magazine claims that she was there to investigate why these rebels continued to fight against the US forces in Iraq, but what she witnesses is something truly shocking. 3 cars are at their disposal, she writes. They start off in a column. We don't know where they're taking us. They stop in a cloud of dust some kilometers further on to recover a ground-to-air missile, SAM-7, wrapped in a white fabric and hidden in a thicket at the edge of a dirt track. We now know that the weapon was actually a Russian Strela 3, known to NATO as an SA-14 Gremlin. It's an all-aspect, man-portable, shoulder-fired air defense missile and a much improved version of the earlier SA-7 Grail. It has a nitrogen-cooled lead sulfide, infrared homing seeker head more sensitive and capable than its predecessor. About 1.5 meters long, it can comfortably fit in a golf bag and would make an impressive driver. When fired, it can accelerate to over 900 miles an hour. That's around Mach 1.75, climb to an altitude of over 7,500 feet, and is armed with a blast fragmentation warhead that weighs over 1 kilo. That's about 2.2 pounds. The missile has a proximity and contact fuse, which detonates the warhead when it comes close to or strikes its target. When ignited, the warhead explodes, creating damage in 2 ways. The shock wave generated causes targets with large volume to explode from the internal pressure changes. Approximately 30% of the energy released by the explosive is used to break up the casing and impart kinetic energy to the fragments. The flying debris expands into a ball of shrapnel, which can slice through the thin skin of an aircraft like the cut of 1,000 knives. At Baghdad Airport, an Airbus A300, registration Oscar Delta Lima Lima, was being operated by the Belgian company European Air Transport on behalf of DHL, and was starting a scheduled flight to Bahrain. The aircraft was far from new. It began life with Malaysia Airlines in 1975 and was then taken on by Carnival in 1995, part of the Cruise Lines company. before joining EAT as a cargo carrier. It was only holding about 7 tons of cargo, having delivered mail and other essentials to American troops based in Baghdad. There were only the crew on board, 2 Belgian pilots, Captain Eric Gianotti and First Officer Steve Mickelson, plus a British flight engineer, Mario Raphael, who hailed from Scotland. The captain was 38 and had a good amount of experience with over 3,000 hours, about half on the A300. The crew prepared their aircraft and briefed the departure, which included a special takeoff procedure to reduce the time they would spend on the ground and during the initial climb when they would be exposed to any threats. They were going to take off without any flaps, only using the slats, with maximum thrust, toga, and at the speed which would give them the best angle of climb, 215 knots. The Australian air traffic personnel working at Baghdad cleared the aircraft for takeoff, and soon it was approaching 8,000 feet on its way to 10,000 feet, where it should be safe from attack. The French journalist continued her story. The head of the commandos tells us that one day prior he had spotted a DHL Airbus which was flying at low level. We've never fired on the civilian aircraft, but at that time I did not know what DHL was doing. Afterwards, when a friend of mine explained that these aircraft transported GI's mail, I regretted a little my intentions. That would mean depriving the soldiers of the letters from their mothers and wives. But the next time I fire. The sun rises and draws red shades upon the men, who have just begun to take up their weapons and prepare for the operation. A peasant passes, his shovel on his back. He understands what is underway and simply says, "God blesses you," and supports your action, before moving away quietly towards his field of tomatoes. Suddenly, the leader pricks up his ears and scans the sky, leaps up and shouts, "A plane! You there, at the ready! This time you'll have to fire!" The nitrogen bottle in the launcher's body has cooled the infrared seeker as the A300 climbs. Eventually it becomes operational and acquires the heat source, the General Electric CF6 engines. It's relatively simple to operate. All the user has to do is visually acquire the target, activate the automatic target lock, and launch the missile by pulling a trigger. The seeker head howls. The head of the commando screams, "Fire!" The starting booster runs for about half a second and the missile leaps away from the launcher. Then the propellant charge takes over and it spirals upwards in a stabilizing spin as it rockets towards the A300. A second missile is fired, and at 9:18 in the morning, the first missile hits the target's left wing. The second misses, but regardless, the leader jumps for joy like a child and lifts up his hands to the sky. Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Passing 8,000 feet on the climb out, Captain Gianotti was nearly safe. The missile had a theoretical maximum engagement altitude of 7,500 feet, but belting upwards at nearly 1,500 feet a second, it has overtaken the aircraft. Passing the A300's left wingtip, the warhead explodes. The shrapnel from the fragmenting cover spreads out and slices through the outer portion of the wing's trailing edge, cutting into fuel tanks, pipes, and electrical connections. Precious fluid sprays through broken hydraulic lines at 3,000 psi, and aviation fuel starts to gush, and then the shockwave from the blast hits the aircraft. The aircraft shakes, and almost immediately, Mario, the engineer, spots the pressure in two of the hydraulic systems falling. He announces a double hydraulic system failure as the green, the primary system, and the yellow circuits empty their fluid through the ruptured lines. A double hydraulic system failure is about as serious as it gets, since it leaves the aircraft with only one system left. And should that fail, then none of the primary flight controls will operate. The aircraft would be as controllable as a leaf falling from a tree. 20 seconds later, Captain Ginotti feels the flight controls stiffen as the third and final hydraulic system, the lifeblood of the Airbus, fails. As if that were not serious enough, aviation fuel from the hold fuel tank has ignited, and now his aircraft is on fire with flames streaming from his shattered left wing. With no hydraulics, his ailerons, rudder, and elevators are floating, unpowered. He's unable to move them. His trimmable horizontal stabilator and spoilers are frozen, along with his flaps and slats, which are retracted. The aircraft was like a piece of paper in the air, Mario, the flight engineer, explained. We went through a series of steep banks and dives. You couldn't leave your seat. The crew assessed their situation whilst being thrown against their harnesses. They had no flight controls. Part of their left wing was missing, and more coming away as the fire took hold. And they were losing fuel at an alarming rate. About the only things left working were the two engines. In the history of civil aviation, only two aircraft have been in a similar situation: the Sioux City DC-10 and a JAL 747. Both aircraft became uncontrollable after all their hydraulic systems failed. Despite a heroic effort by Captain Al Haynes and his crew, the DC-10 crashed at Sioux City Airport, killing 112. After a terrifying 44 minutes of uncontrolled flight, the JAL 747 impacted the side of a mountain, killing an appalling 520 passengers and crew. The odds for the Airbus crew were not good, but as Mario Raphael said, the rules have gone out of the window. Situations like this are unique every time. You cannot train for them. You cannot write a checklist for them. During the learning process, their airspeed lurches wildly between 180 and 300 knots. The crew have since listened to the cockpit voice recorder tape and say they're quite surprised at how calm they all sound. Mario commented, "All you can do is apply common sense and stay calm. We were the right combination of crew." The only control left to the pilots was the natural stability of the aircraft and the engines. Being mounted in pods under the wing and below the center of gravity, an increase in thrust would cause the aircraft to pitch up a little. The opposite would occur should the power be reduced. However, this isn't as simple as it sounds. Although the crew could make general changes to the attitude of the aircraft without fine control, it would naturally oscillate up and down in a phugoid. To try to turn the aircraft, they needed to use asymmetric power, increasing the thrust on one engine and not the other, which would cause the aircraft to yaw. This yawing action would increase the lift on the advancing wing and decrease it on the retreating wing, which would then cause the aircraft to roll, allowing them to crudely turn. Again, this wasn't as easy as it might appear, since they were missing a portion of the left wing, and with a massive fuel leak, the weight in that wing was reducing all the time, making the aircraft want to continually turn to the right. It takes some time to establish how to control their aircraft, and then the crew tried to steer in a big loop back towards Baghdad Airfield. All the while their wing was burning, with 50 feet of flame streaming back from the fuel tank, which might explode at any moment. it becomes obvious that they can't get their speed low enough to land and still keep control of the aircraft. So Raphael uses the emergency system to lower the landing gear, which, despite being well above the maximum speed, works perfectly. The aircraft had been trimmed to 215 knots when the stabilator froze. And with the speed back in that regime, it becomes easier to control. But despite this, Captain Gianotti has trouble lining up for an approach, and they turn away to reposition. Raphael is working hard to ensure that, despite the leak, fuel is continuously fed to the left engine, but not to the fire. Should he make a mistake and accidentally cut fuel to the engine, all would be lost. They get a decent distance from the runway and then have a second go from a long straight-in approach. It's looking better, and despite 20 knots of turbulent wind from 290 degrees, giving them an uncomfortable crosswind, they're lined up to land on runway 33 left. Without flaps or slats, they're fast, around 210 knots, and Gianotti knows that at that speed, without spoilers to keep them down, a bounce on touchdown could be fatal. With just the thrust levers, they fly the aircraft down to the flare. They're coping with the phugoid, the asymmetry in weight, and the crosswind well. At about 400 feet, though, they meet the rough air that is common around hot airfields, and the wing dips. The aircraft starts to veer off course. Having battled the crippled Airbus for 25 minutes, Gianotti needs one more effort, and he adds power and rights it again, and they touch down as gently as a feather. But with no spoilers, brakes, rudder, or steering, they can't keep on the runway and slide off the side. Engaging full thrust reverse, they plow across the sand and disappear into a huge cloud of red dust kicked up by the reversers. In the cockpit, they're bouncing along the rough ground. Several tires fail, and one jolt reaches 7.5 Gs. Watchers assume the worst, but as the dust settles, they see that the aircraft is intact and stopped a mere 3,300 feet after landing. An almost unbelievable story of a remarkable aircraft and crew. Captain Eric Gianotti, First Officer Steve Mickelson, and Flight Engineer Mario Raphael were rightly honored and given awards from around the globe. These included the Hugh Gordon Burge Memorial Award from the Guild of Air Pilots, given to flight crew whose outstanding behavior and action contributed to the saving of their aircraft, and only awarded for events of significant merit. And the Flight Safety Foundation's Professionalism Award in flight safety, which was presented to the crew members for their extraordinary piloting skills in flying their aircraft. And what of their amazing A300? Well, it was promptly repaired and put up for sale. Sadly, there were no takers, and it remains at Baghdad, a sad memorial to a brilliant crew.
Another wonderful plain tale by the old pilot. Now, I have to mention, because I didn't mention it before when we were talking about the Plane Talking UK 300 episode celebration, and you mentioned it at the beginning of this plain tale that you did this originally at that celebration. Nick did it live, so you had some pictures going on the big screen in the background, but all of what you just heard was Nick doing it live, and he didn't flub up anything. I mean, didn't have to stop, no outtakes or anything. It was pretty.
Yeah, for anyone who's listened to the Christmas plain tales I sometimes put out with the year's worth of outtakes, you'll realize how hard it is to get a complete story out in one go. It never happens, but yeah, I managed to do it for the PT UK, so that was kind of good fun having one live there while we were there. But
I'm thinking we should do it live on every show now, from now on.
I liked it actually when you did it live. So yeah, I vote for that too.
Yeah.
There you go. It would save you so much time.
It would kill me.
No, it wouldn't. You'd do such a magnificent job.
You see, in order to do a live one, it's like a lecture. When you're working with a lot of notes, you've got to read through them so many times until it's fresh in your head, that it would actually take me more time to do that than it would to record one.
So anything you want to add or say about that particular story? I think it's an amazing story, an amazing job done by that flight crew, and so sad that that airplane is still sitting there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Well, as of, I think, 2011, that was the most recent photograph I found of it sitting there. Someone's robbed the engines from it. The airframe's sitting there all covered in red dust. I don't think it's ever going to go anywhere. So that's a bit sad. Now, I think that because it was just the crew on board, there were no passengers, it wasn't given nearly the same level of publicity than had it been an aircraft full of passengers and they had all been saved. Fact was, from our pilot's point of view, what they did was unbelievably hard, and they did a fantastic job. I mean, they had about a 15-knot crosswind component when they touched down, trying to control that airplane, and with all the problems that were going on around them, and put it on the runway. I think it's just a brilliant piece of piloting.
Absolutely. Wow. Good stuff. Oh, I also forgot to mention earlier that the beverages here in the Anderson studios are provided today by, or at least the first two, by Carlos Stebbings, host of the PTUK.
Thank you very much, Carlos.
It was a really good, the Adnams Southwold Ghost Ship Citrus Pale Ale.
And I was drinking the Hobgoblin, and someone was commenting that Hobgoblin have changed their labels. They don't look so attractive nowadays, but that's just one of our listeners' opinions.
Now, this Citra Pale Ale has Citra hops, which have a very, as you can imagine, a very tropical kind of hop flavor. Nick loves that tropical hop flavor. And then I just selected another one that your son gave you some.
Yeah, that's right.
Christmas?
A Christmas present that was.
Yes. Baby-faced assassin, but it is an India Pale Ale as well from Roosters Brewing Company since 1993, and it is entirely 100% Citra hops. So it's a very tasty ale. Thank you.
If you like Alco Pop.
Yeah, well, everybody has taste, some lower than others.
I like manly beer.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
I don't like beer.
There you go.
Actually, that's not true anymore.
I know.
We're slowly educating you, aren't we, Dana?
You are. I do not like IPAs. I know that, but I do like wheat beers, and I do like porters and stouts.
Yeah.
So
me too. I like it all. Okay. Let's continue with our feedback. Item number 7 from Dave. He says, "Hello, all. First off, let me say how much I love your podcast." Okay.
Thank you very much.
I'm just waiting for him to say it. I don't hear him.
He just did.
Oh, okay. I look forward to it every week. My question is this. I love the old pilots' plain tales and would like to, I do too, and would like to share them with my mom. She, however, isn't into the podcast thing. Is there a way to purchase a CD of multiple stories on it? If not, maybe an idea for those that are not into podcasts yet. I look forward to your next podcast and any info that you may have on my question. Thanks. And again, that's from Dave, and he gave us some information to get back in touch with him. And I believe, have you yet, or are you going to tell him now what you what your plan is here, or what your idea is.
I don't really have a plan,
Okay.
but the idea of putting them out on CDs fills me with dread because of the amount of work it would take. Really, not just putting them on the CD, that's relatively simple, but mass producing them. More importantly, as Jeff knows from his efforts producing mugs and T-shirts in the past, it's really collating all the people who want them, addressing, packaging, charging the right money, going overseas,
shipping.
It's just, yeah, exactly.
It's a
It
mess.
just becomes a nightmare. And sadly, I just don't have time for that. Quite honestly, the simplest way to present these as a package to your mum is just go to our website. You can download each plain tale individually. You could burn it onto a CD yourself and then give that to her. Or alternatively, drag and drop them onto an SD card. And you can get plenty of little loudspeaker systems,
Or like a USB stick or something. Even.
They're
pretty
or
cheap.
a USB stick, you plenty of loudspeaker systems that you can just plug a USB stick straight into, or put an SD card straight into, and then just press play, and off they go. So I would recommend the do-it-yourself route. It'll be cheaper for you, and it'll be a lot simpler for me.
Yes, I agree. So hopefully that helps, Dave. I'm not sure what name I just said before I said Dave, but
and by the way, the money that you would have spent on buying a CD, you could always consider putting that into the Coffee Bar Fund, because that would help us anyway.
Or you could buy your mom some flowers, or buy yourself some beer.
Yes, up to all three,
or all three. Or buy Dana some cough drops.
Yeah, exactly right.
Sorry, you need some right now.
But
no, that was good. You caught that really rapidly. I mean, very quickly.
I've gotten a lot better in my old age and my experience now. I'm reacting a lot better these days. That Rolls switch that you're using for cutting yourself out. They also make a floor switch model where you can actually, like just tap it with your foot if you want. I was listening to another podcast, and I was reminded that Rolls makes a foot-activated switch for coughing. I don't know. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Let's see. Item 8. This is from Jack English. Do you think Jack is English?
Could be.
Could be.
But he might not. It might be just...
wait. Look, the first, he is. Good
right.
day, APG crew from Hertfordshire in the UK. Did I say that
Hertfordshire.
Right? Dang it. I thought for sure I'd get that right. Hertfordshire in the UK. My name is Jack. I'm 19 years old, and in March this year, I will be commencing training to become a commercial pilot through an ab initio program. A few months ago, I passed my initial Class 1 medical.
Good job. Well done.
But during my eye examination, the optometrist raised a point that I would like your opinions on. As I wear glasses, the optometrist told me that I may want to look into finding a suitable headset in advance of my training, because she has been told by previous pilots she has examined that the force of a standard headset pushing glasses into the side of your head over a long period of time can become very uncomfortable. So I'd like to know whether this ever affected you guys, especially with Captain Nick having to wear a headset for the duration of a long flight. No, that's not true. Are contact lenses a viable option, or would they dry out your eyes? Any thoughts on this or solutions? I would love to hear, or even if you have never experienced this before, and I think I have nothing to worry about, that it's all a myth. I began listening around July 2019. I love the show. I suffer with the syndrome. Sorry to hear that. We're still actively working.
You still got your Class 1 medical, or did you just not declare the syndrome when
maybe they didn't ask the proper psychological questions?
Could be, yeah.
Every episode makes me more excited to begin my training. That's good to hear. I hope all the crew and community have had a great start to their year. We have. All the best, Jack English. Okay, so just quickly before you answer, Nick, because I know you have some good answers for this one. Just to put out there, a myth is that long haul pilots wear their headsets for the entire 12 or 15-hour flight, and you're not required to do that, right?
Well, I think you need to on a noisy airplane like a Boeing, but the Airbuses are so quiet.
So sorry, I let you answer that. Let's see. Let me find your microphone slider. Oh, okay. Oh, too bad.
My mic stopped, Jeff.
Okay, I'll put it back on.
I was only joking. Once you're above 20,000 feet on our Airbuses, because we had loudspeakers and the cockpit's lovely quiet, you could take off your headsets. You didn't need to wear them anymore. And in fact, some people, yeah, that's all I'll say. So you didn't have to really endure it for long, the first hour and the last hour probably. But if it is a problem, first of all, I'd wait and see what kind of a headset you are going to end up with, whether you buy your own or whether you get one issued by your company, etc. I know that there are over-the-ear or in-the-ear versions. So an in-the-ear version would probably operate without any problem at all, since it's not affecting the place on your head where your spectacle arms go. I know that military flying helmets press a lot more than civil earphones. So, and our pilots who wore glasses cope with that no problem. I don't think it was ideal, but certainly bearable. Certainly, if you've got a pair of those kind of more modern, thick black plastic frames, that's going to be worse. I personally have very thin wireframes. So I would recommend glasses made by someone like Lindstrom, or what's the other one? I'm thinking has really whippy frames. Anyway, you go to any decent optometrist and they'll have thin wireframes, which you can go for as an option. Or just trying out various headsets with your glasses and just see which ones suit you and which ones don't. Of course, it also depends on which aircraft type you're going to fly as to how noisy they are and how good the headsets need to be. So I made it all the way through my career without any problems whatsoever. But I don't know about you. You've got
the glasses I'm wearing right now are basically the glasses that they're the same glasses I wear in the airplane. Yeah, they don't have super thick, whatever you call these things that
the arms
or whatever. But yeah, so, and I wear the Bose A20 headset. That's an over-ear headset that presses on these things, and I've never really had an issue with a pain or discomfort or whatever with them. So yeah, I think honestly, I think it's the last thing on your feedback. Never experienced this before, and I think you have nothing to worry about. Now, I guess, again, it's just dependent upon the type of headset, the pressure that it's putting around your ear, and the airplane that you're flying.
Yeah, right. Go to a pilot shop and try out a few heads. If you end up in a situation where you have to buy your own, I wouldn't preempt this. Mm-hmm. I'd get involved in it and see what they suggest or advise when you start flying. Training, or just think ahead to your company and what company am I going to work in, and how do they approach this, and take some advice from pilots who've in that particular aircraft, because every aircraft's different, and a lot of companies require you to be on intercom, and some don't. So you might end up in a good situation. When it comes to contacts, by the way, I know plenty of cabin crew who fly with contacts. Not many pilots. The dry atmosphere in an aircraft not ideal for contacts, particularly for long haul. They will dry out. If you're short haul, you probably get away with it a lot easier and wouldn't have to wear your glasses, though. But it depends how much correction your eyes need, whether you need varifocal or not. Contacts don't give you quite the same acuity as glasses in some situations. So, just have a think about that.
I know that Dana, you don't wear glasses at all. Well, nope. I guess you probably do wear sunglasses, though.
I do wear sunglasses.
So in a way that you do encounter that problem at times, or potentially. And I know that you just recently purchased and returned a headset from Bose, the in-ear, their newest
2.
ProFlight 2 headset, and it just didn't work out for you. And I think you mentioned that on a previous episode why you ended up.
In confidence, I just mentioned it amongst ourselves.
Oh, okay, well then, if you just
So-
heard me say something like that, yeah, disregard it. Wipe it from your memory. You didn't hear that.
Yes.
You didn't hear that. But anyway, I'll let you put your 2 cents worth in.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the clamping force of the headset. So Nick alluded to it earlier that the headsets that he used to wear, the clamping force was pretty significant. When I used to wear David Clark's, which are the big ear pieces with the heavy headband, when I was flying general aviation, those would pose some challenges as far as the pressure that puts on your temple with the sunglasses would go through. Right now, currently, I wear a Sennheiser, which I'm very upset, by the way, Sennheiser, if you're listening. They've done away with their aviation division with their headsets. So that was about a year and a half ago, I think.
Yeah,
now.
a lot of people wear those.
Yeah, and I absolutely love the headset. But they're very much like a Telex flat.
I was going to say, a lot of people use those Telex, very lightweight Telex.
Exactly, and they just sit on the ears. And then Sennheisers are very much like that, but I've got the A&R active noise reduction Sennheisers, which are fantastic. So there's really no issue there whatsoever with those. But if you have an over-the-ear type of ear cup, then even the David Clark ProFlight, which I did try from a friend of mine for a trip, those presented an issue. And a lot of it is if you're using intercom or not using intercom. That's the only reason why. And you were talking about the other headset, the ProFlight 2. That is the only reason why I returned that headset. It doesn't have individual volume control. So with it not having individual volume control, right now you see me on air, and I actually own almost the exact same pair in-ear headsets that I use on the show all the time. Mm-hmm. The only problem is that in flight, they're very good at knocking down the noise. They're very comfortable. They don't interfere with your ability to wear glasses at all. The only problem is that with it not having dual volume control, is that I'm hearing a radio call, active noise reduction, and then the first officer trying to talk to me. I can't hear the first officer. So the only way that I can hear the first officer is pulling the earpiece out, which it completely negates the whole reason why you have the active noise reduction earpiece headset. So, but for wearing glasses, by far the best headset out there, I think, in my humble opinion, for comfort level, for being able to, wear any type of corrective vision. Again, in the acoustics on that headset and noise reduction on that headset is amazing. So in a very noisy environment, you wouldn't have an issue. It just depends on whether you're using intercom or not.
No, I think not being able to hear the first officer is actually a feature, not.
It is, except for when they say flaps, landing gear down. What did you say?
I just look around and just nod my head and smile.
There have been some good suggestions from the chat room, including pince-nez, those French style glasses that just clamp onto your bridge of your nose, a la Matrix. I think who was the guy? That wore a pair of those. Can't remember now. And a pair of monocles. 2 monocles. That might be really
that's a good idea.
That'd be a good talking point.
Thank you, Neil.
From anything else?
I think the pince-nez and the monocles might be a little difficult in turbulence, but that's just my 2 cents.
Oh, you tie them onto a little piece of cotton, don't you? So if they fall off, you can just put them back in again.
and who's really keeping their eyes open during extensive turbulence anyway?
Oh yeah, I'm usually fast asleep.
I have, or just eyes closed because you're just
terrified.
In terror. Because you're probably plunging from in terror because you're plunging down from 35,000 feet.
Yep.
There he is.
What happened there?
I have absolutely no idea. It just went.
Oh, I'm glad you're back.
Gone. I didn't even touch anything. Didn't even move the mouse.
Oh, by the way, the other style of frame I was going to suggest was silhouettes. They're very slim frame. So
I have a set of those, and they're very bendy, flexible, but they're very expensive though.
Well, yeah, and these Lindstrom ones I've got even more expensive. But
Are they?
Yeah.
You know, there is a more expensive. I'm not so sure that the Air Force, the military would accept it, but of course there is the ability to have laser eye vision correction. Then you don't have to worry about wearing glasses. Not that I have never actually had that.
And
I mean, you put your entire flying career into the hands of a
unless they screw it up, then
with a person with the laser, and you have to look at the number of failures there are. And think, well, if I'm one of the, say, I don't know what it is, 98%
probably a very low
success, but if I'm one of the 2 people who get their eyesight wrecked or whatever, there goes your career.
Yeah, in Miami, I've asked him that question because, you know, as I get a little older, I'm thinking about, you know, versus wearing glasses, doing that. And he said, yeah, not worth the risk. But it was just, you know, I just had to throw it out there.
No, that's true. That is definitely something that a lot of pilots do, actually. All right. Oh, by the way, Jack's, you know, mentioning that he's 19. We met a very young person at the PTUK 300 episode. His name is Sam, and he was there with his dad. I'm assuming he was about that age.
Yeah, he certainly looked
very young. His dad looked young. That's how young
Jeff.
Sam
everyone
is.
looks young.
Well, everybody looks young. Yeah, shut up. So anyway,
even I look young.
No, you don't. A shout out to Sam if you're listening. Great meeting you, and I told him to please make sure that he keeps us apprised of his progress and his flight training and his goal to become a professional airline pilot.
Oh yeah, and of course the same applies to Jack. You're starting off on a fantastically exciting career, and we'd love to hear how you get on, Jack.
Exactly. All right, item 9. Miles poses a question here. Are there any considerations how female combat pilots would be treated if shot down in enemy territory? For PCPR purposes, is this subject simply never discussed? And so what do you think about that? Female pilots that, well, not necessarily even pilots, but female combatants. You know, is that something that we should think about considerations as far as being taken as a prisoner?
Well, if I was a woman in today's world who wanted to become a combat pilot, and I thought people were going, oh, no, you can't do that because we just want to protect you, I'd feel very offended. So I don't think it's appropriate for us to question the motives of someone who wants to go and fight. And there's no doubt about it that combat pilots who are capture prone, and that really applies to anyone who goes over the front line and into an enemy country to bomb or photo recce or whatever job they're doing over there. I don't think it's right to go, well, we can't let you do that. We don't think that's a good idea because you're a female and they might do awful things to you. I think if you're a female combat pilot and you want to do that, or any crew member and you want to do that, you're willing to accept the risk just as a male pilot would. I don't see any difference. I mean, the plane tale I did a couple of plane tales ago about that lovely German chap who got into the United States, became a combat pilot, got captured in Vietnam. The things he had to endure, and many other of the combat pilots who were captured in Vietnam, are just about as awful a thing you can do to any human being, regardless of your sex. And I don't think we should pander to our male concerns about what will happen to a female pilot in the same situation. It's up to them to decide whether they're happy to be put in that situation. And I think the same level of concern should apply to any pilot that's captured and we want to get them out of captivity, whether it's a male or a female. We try not to leave our servicemen behind, servicewomen behind. We make every effort we can to get them released. And the same would apply regardless of which sex you are. So I see this being a bit of a non-question. I would hope by now we've moved on to the point where we get concerned about what sex you are. If you're willing to fight for your country, you should be allowed to go fight for your country.
Yeah, you just have to assume that these people, whether they're male or female, understand the risks involved and go into it with their eyes open.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head, Nick. Is that it doesn't matter what your orientation is as far as whether you're male, female, you are subjected to torturous conditions if that were to be the case. You just have to go back in history and look at the world wars and then Vietnam and Korea and all that stuff. It doesn't matter. It's just nastiness from one human being to another human being that there's no respect. So yeah, I agree with you 100%, Nick. It's an individual choice, and that's the end of the story on that one.
Very good. Case closed. Item 10. Kevin St. John sends us this. Hello, Captains Jeff, Nick, Dana, and Dr. Steph. I was listening to APG 406 this weekend while driving my Tesla and walking around in a t-shirt as the temperature in northeastern Massachusetts.
Sorry.
These obnoxious people in their Teslas.
Yeah, like Adam Spink and his brand new Tesla.
Michael Carroll's.
Yeah.
And down. Yeah. Whoa, we're impressed. No, I'm just kidding. We are actually. Anyway, I know that Kevin St. John has been driving around Teslas for quite a number of years. I think he had the original one. Anyway, he was walking around in a t-shirt as the temperature in northeastern Massachusetts was a crazy 20 C on January 11th and 12th, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. I offer a screenshot. Let me try that again. I offer a screenshot of my instrument panel with its temperature display as evidence. Well, we didn't doubt you, Kevin. We didn't doubt you. Captain Dana would be in awe. Cue the wow. Okay. Well, Dana, do a live wow.
Wow.
There you go. As if he were around his childhood home. However, delivering a weather report wasn't the point of this email. Okay. APG 406 had a discussion of energy per kilogram of a lithium-based battery and carbon-based fuels, as well as battery performance as it relates to airplanes. I believe my experience driving a battery-powered automobile for the last 4.5 years gives another perspective. First, battery technology is advancing rapidly with different technology being researched and deployed. My 4.5-year-old car's original range of 268 miles is over 100 miles less than models currently being built. That's quite an improvement. Second, while batteries are indeed sensitive to temperature, the battery management system in my car warms and cools the battery to keep it within its best operating range. Third, the battery management system keeps a close eye on the sub-assemblies and controls the charge rate to minimize battery degradation. My car's full charge range is down about 4% from its original 268 miles after having driven 78,000 miles.
Actually, that's damned impressive.
That is really impressive. Current battery, current battery to keep it within, wait a minute, I'm jumping around. Current battery technology is a lot more advanced than it was given credit on ALG 406. That must be a different show.
Yeah, that's the show that really panned those batteries.
Oh, I know. We would never.
We didn't do it. No, that wasn't us.
That was ALG 406. He means our show, of course. Therefore, while battery-powered long-haul and even MD-8890 flight lengths are not yet possible, I wouldn't be surprised if Captain Dana wasn't flying one as he approaches Captain Jeff's seniority. Best wishes for flight phase appropriate wins. Sorry. Also hoping that a Boston or even Portland, Maine meetup isn't too far into the future. Respectfully, Kevin St. John. Yeah, well, hopefully we'll get back up that way, Kevin. Good. You made some very good points. And battery technology is improving for sure. It's just, I guess we were kind of saying that it's going to take incredible leaps ahead in technology to fly the kind of stuff that Nick was flying before he retired, and even what Dana and I are flying at this point. But I'm sure that one day, somehow they'll come up with some technology that makes this whole thing feasible. I think isn't the latest technology the gallium ion batteries or something like that? Some other kind of material other than lithium is providing even higher battery energy I forgot what the term. I always forget the term. Anyway, it's making the possibility of longer haul use maybe possible in the future, and who knows what it might be, some kind of a hybrid kind of situation where you're using maybe hydrogen fuel cells and batteries or whatever. I'm sure there's going to be a point at some time in the future that fossil fuels will finally not be present in transportation at all.
I'm sure you're right.
Yeah, probably after all humans are extinct.
Probably.
Yeah.
Certainly I'll be extinct by then.
Yeah. Let's see. Looks like finally our last item, James writes in and he says, "This is James who doesn't have a job in the airline industry." Oh, I'm sorry, James. Or maybe you like it that way. "I was listening to episode 407 of the show, which was our last show, and Capitan Jeff mentioned how the passenger burned his left egg after."
Sounds nasty.
Hate it when I burn my left egg.
Yes.
After his backup cell phone battery overheated. Well, that reminds me of a video on YouTube where an ATC makes a flub while talking to a pilot. There is no cursing in the video, so I'll let you hear it and get your reaction. It is audio only, so the audio podcast listeners won't miss a thing. Again, love the show. Okay, so I went ahead and pulled the audio from this YouTube video, and here is the ATC flub.
Under Banana 2906, Pensacola, Hotel, hold short 17 at Bravo, waiting local release.
Hold short of 17. Did you just call me a banana?
No, sir, you did not hear that correctly.
Okay. I heard it.
You ought to just replay it because now people know that she called him a banana.
Yeah.
It sounds better the second time
Okay, here,
around.
let's do it again. Pensacola Tower.
Pensacola Tower, Banana 6, we'll be all set.
Under Banana 2906, Pensacola, Hotel, hold short 17
Yeah,
at Bravo, waiting local release.
definitely called him a banana.
That's definitely banana.
No, sir, you did not hear that correctly.
Ah, you fibber.
I heard it.
See, I did too.
We all did.
That's funny.
Excellent.
You could tell she was laughing, but no, you did not hear that.
Yeah, I did not say banana.
We were saying before we recorded the show, I would have come back and said, yeah, no, you're mistaken. I didn't say that. So banana 296. I just keep saying banana.
Yeah, that's right. No, you're mishearing me.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with your ears.
Yeah.
She was probably looking at the airplane. It's painted yellow.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
All right.
probably a spirit.
Yeah.
I'm surprised
No.
they don't have a banana
I don't think they fly bonanzas or bananas.
But
Anyway.
flying on them, no, I'm not going to go there. Sorry.
Okay.
Stop.
Thank you. All right. Yeah. Liz is mentioning to us that Jack is in the chat room, so he's getting a lot of good advice, as you mentioned, Nick, from the chat room folks. Some links to the company that makes these glasses that he's wearing.
Okay.
right now,
Yep.
and other. Neat. We have something happening here at the Anderson studio.
It's a good job we're winding up, isn't
Yes, Alexa is like telling us that somebody is approaching his front door, and I think that soon we're going to hear
the dogs
barking and everything else. But he was concerned about that, and I said, Nick, don't worry about it.
There they
It's
go.
part of the ambiance of doing the show. It's obviously not a soundproof studio, but we do have the door open even, so I don't care. Yeah. Anyway, actually, that wasn't bad. Just a couple little barks.
They were just saying hello.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, they treat every burglar like that. Are you sure it wasn't so bad?
She's just excited to see mama, or whatever. What do you call her? Mama, mommy?
I call her my wife.
Well, I mean, that's probably appropriate.
Yeah.
And what did they call her?
They call her woof, woof, woof,
Okay.
woof, woof, woof.
Yeah, I'm just going to drop it. Okay. With that, it is now time to end the show. And hey,
Rusty. Oh,
thank you.
My mummy's home.
All right. So this is the point of the show where we say, why don't you check out our website? I keep looking around for the camera. Where is it? It's over there.
Right-
check out our
right in front of
website,
us.
airlinepilotguy.com. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up so I can actually look at all the things that we have there on this wonderful site. It's airlinepilotguy.com. And it's a very good-looking site that was is maintained and put up there by Arash, and you can see our 3 latest episodes, and there are lots of stuff you can do. You can go to the podcast page
Really?
and see all the podcasts, our videos. If you're listening to the audio only, if you want to check us out on YouTube, you can just click on APG on YouTube and see all of our shows there as we record the show live. And you can learn about the APG crew, little mini bios of us on there. And we have the Plane Tales page, where is dedicated to all the individual plane tails. And Nick always adds some photographs and other supplementary information to go with these wonderful plane tales that he does every week. And you can also, there's information on how you can subscribe to the Plain Tales podcast. We have something called the APG Library that is managed by our librarian, Tiffany. And there you'll see different types of books involved with aviation, historical fiction, aviation memoirs and biographies, astronautics, crash and near-miss investigations, military aviation, and other nonfiction. And so you can even, if you have a suggestion for Tiffany, you can email her at tiffany@airlinepilotguy.com, and then she'll add it to the library. And thank you, Tiffany, for doing that, by the way. Information about the Coffee Fund is there. We also have some merchandise via the APG store. If you want to get a t-shirt or some other kind of merch, you can check that out by heading over to that page. And we have a way for you to send us feedback and contact us, our contact us page. And also, if you want to use SpeakPipe to do a recording. And we always love hearing your voice when we do our feedback. And calendar is the last item on the menu, where you can see where we are on our trips and that kind of thing, where we are going to have meetups, and also information about, when we know it, when we are planning to record the next episode. So you can be with us live, because I think you'll have a lot of fun joining us live. And we're on social media. At this point, this is where you... Dr. Steph's not here, so...
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
We need to get Dr. Steph to do a recording, so...
Yeah, that's
then I know it after.
Here, let me get these banners here. So, okay, go.
We're on Facebook, and you can get us there at the Airline Pilot Guy on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
You can find us on Twitter and Instagram with the same handle, I think, at APG Crew. And we're also on a wacky system called Slack. And I think Halal has flown all the way across to come and take up residence in my toilet.
I think he is in the shower. Wait a minute. I think I hear the shower running.
He's using all my hot water again.
Hillel, it's time. Come over here.
What the heck is on this hand towel?
Don't worry about it.
That'll be the dogs.
That's it. All right, come over here. Sit here. We'll move away, and you can sit right here. Here's the microphone. Tell us about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and Plain Tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilot.
Well, The rest of it,
I think he drowned.
Just send Hillel an email at hillel@airlinepilotguy.com or slack@airlinepilotguy.com, and he'll set you up. And
a lot goes on there, isn't it? And it's a kind of a big chat room for all the listeners.
It is, and honestly, especially for the meetups, it seems that that's the place to find the most information about when we're planning on doing meetups, and information about where the meetup's located, and other such information. Great place. And let's see. I guess that's about it. Our wonderful producer, we have to give another
thank you very much, Liz.
Shout out
Thank
to
you, Liz.
Piper.
Another awesome job.
As always, making us look much better than we actually are. And until next time, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good one. See ya.
Woohoo! We did it.
Good job.
Shoot, I wish I'd recorded that.
We have to do it again?
Yeah, we have to do it again. That was
See ya.
Just kidding.
That's a clever.
Yes.
Very
I'm
clever.
going to hit the stop button.
Star of the show.
This is like, what happened? Oh,
there's another doggy.
She slobbered on my glasses.
There's our producer, Liz. And there's Dana
Julie.
doing barking sounds.
Oh, dear. There you go.
How was shopping?
Oh, good.
Good.
Yeah, successful.
Excellent. Liz says, hi, Julie.
Hi, Liz.
You see her there?
I do see her.
Ah, okay.
She's the one with glowing eyes.
Yes.
Julie.
You're good? Oh, Hannah.
Yeah.
Hey, Hannah's on. You haven't met.
Oh, we should turn this
Get
on so
on.
you can hear. Ba-da-da-dum.
Oh, hi, Hannah, Liz, Dana.
Hi, guys. Hi, Julie. How are you?
Pretty good. Rather damp. It's filthy weather here.
Well, it could be worse.
Oh, probably not.
Could be snow.
It's blowing a gale. But yeah, luckily my car glues itself to the road, so I'm fine.
That's good.
Yeah.
Hi, Rusty.
Oh, Rusty Bucket. Rugger, who's that?
Well, Rugger, who you can't see, is really perked up at that.
He's looking very, very excited.
Where'd Hannah go? Can she hear us?
She's right here.
Can she? You have earplugs in, or does she hear us?
No, she can hear you. Yeah, she's here.
She's peeing on the floor right now.
That's one of the rare talents I have, is talking to dogs.
Oh, there you go. I wonder what you're saying.
Well,
now.
we-
Oh, you silly.
Oh, someone trod on Rugger.
All right. Well,
Rugger.
thanks everyone for joining us on the live show. We do appreciate it. Hope you enjoy being with us live every week, and we do appreciate you being here with us. And I'm not sure when we're going to be recording next week, but it will be sometime. So just check out the APG community calendar, and hopefully you'll be able to join us again. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and log off, and we'll see you again.
See you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye.